Chapter 444. Lei Xian Yao asked, "Can I bring people in?" Lei Xingfeng said, "Yes, no problem, but you can only bring in 3 people at most, no more than that." As he spoke, he gave the authority to Lei Xian Yao and said, "Yao Yao, I'll arrange a courtyard and house for you. You could design it yourself when you have time." The mirror world was Lei Xingfeng's real home. With the mirror world, everything would be stable, and he would be able to come and go as he wished. Especially with the old man Thunderstorm and little sister Lei Xian Yao, he didn't have to worry about their safety, and the family could live and practice wholeheartedly. As for where they could go, he didn't care at all. He could bring his home with him, and he could come back whenever he wanted, and the best thing was that this home was the best place to protect them. He brought Lei Xian Yao around the mirror world, mainly to the newly built house, and also to meet the people in the mirror world and give them some instructions. In the future, Lei Xian Yao would also be one of the masters of the mirror world. Other than that, he also brought Xian Yao to look at the newly built cultivation garden. There were all sorts of rare plants inside, causing Xian Yao to be extremely shocked. There were many spiritual herbs that even she had never seen before. It must be known that when Xian Feng picked herbs, he used his precious light to differentiate them. Although he tried his best to learn how to differentiate rare plants, his knowledge was limited, and there were many that he didn't recognize. However, by using his precious light to differentiate, he wouldn't miss anything and picked many strange spiritual herbs. Soon, Lei Xingfeng brought Lei Xian Yao back to the treehouse. Lei Xian Yao sighed, "It's so convenient." As she spoke, she tried to go back and then go back to the treehouse. She became very familiar with it after a few times. Lei Xingfeng then called Gao Yi and Yin Shaoqing up to the treehouse. Yin Shaoqing's expression was a bit strange. She couldn't understand what this pair of brother and sister were whispering to each other for so long. Lei Xingfeng and Gao Yi quickly left the camp. The two didn't stay for long. The next day, Lei Xingfeng left, which made Yin Shaoqing feel very strange. Lei Xingfeng traveled a long way to find this place. He should have stayed for a few days, but Lei Xingfeng left without hesitation. And the strangest thing was that Lei Xian Yao didn't have any reluctance at all. She happily sent her brother off. This made Yin Shaoqing puzzled. She didn't know how to ask. After Lei Xingfeng and Gao Yi left, she finally couldn't help but ask, "Yao Yao, why did your brother leave so quickly?" Lei Xian Yao laughed. She said, "She was not in a hurry. She could go back whenever she wanted. Why was she in a hurry?" She was very relaxed, very happy. It was a happiness that Yin Shaoqing couldn't understand. Lei Xingfeng and Gao Yi didn't go far from the camp before the two returned to the mirror world. It was convenient to return to the camp from there. Through the mirror world, Lei Xingfeng directly returned to the camp where his secret door was, while Gao Yi went to the ice palace. Previously, he had to accompany Lei Xingfeng to find his sister, so he resisted the urge to continue exploring. But now that he had time, he obviously wouldn't just wait at the camp. He returned to the ice palace through the mirror world. This time, Lei Xingfeng didn't accompany him, since Gao Yi could hide in the mirror world and avoid the most dangerous areas if there was danger, which meant he had the right to explore again. When he returned to the camp, he saw Jean Dia and Mad Eagle. Lei Xingfeng asked curiously, "Why are you guys back?" Jean Dia smiled. "I brought a group of people back. I thought you were at the camp, but there was no one. When I returned to the mirror world, you weren't there, so I could only wait here." He was one of the few people who could use the mirror world, so it wasn't strange that he could come here. Lei Xingfeng asked, "Who did you bring?" Jean Dia said, "They're all peripheral members that we took in before, low-level practitioners. There's no point in leaving them in the original place, so I decided to bring them to the mirror world. We're short of people anyway." Mad Eagle said, "The original continent is becoming more and more unsuitable for people to live in. The group of newcomers made it a mess. If this continues, the secret hidden space won't be interesting anymore. The environment is much worse. After all, it's affected by the continent." Lei Xingfeng knew that as he left the continent, sooner or later, he would have to give up the original secret hidden space. The mirror world also consumed energy. He said, "Okay, leave a few people to guard the secret hidden space. The rest of you return to the mirror world." He had to make a choice. Even if he had the mirror world, it wasn't omnipotent. The original continent was indeed unsuitable for practitioners, so there was no point in staying. Lei Xingfeng originally wanted to leave some people in the secret hidden space, but now it seemed that it wasn't very meaningful. The mirror world was still recovering, and it needed to slowly accumulate energy. It also needed people to move around in it. The growth of all kinds of plants also provided a lot of energy to the mirror world. At this time, the mirror world finally came alive, not as lifeless as before. The entire mirror world seemed to be full of vitality. Of course, there weren't many people now, and they were all gathered in a few villages. If Lei Xingfeng opened the entire mirror world to the hidden sect, it would be even more lively. After arranging the accommodation for the newcomers, Lei Xingfeng led Jean Dia and Mad Eagle out of the mirror world. The hidden sect's camp on the mainland was already very lively. A large number of people had arrived, and large areas of farmland had been opened. It was even more lively than the mirror world. When they arrived at Wu Yang's residence, Lei Xingfeng asked, "Uncle AI, is the founder still here?" When AI 8 saw Lei Xingfeng, he immediately smiled and said politely, "A phone, he's here. He just came back a few days ago. He asked about you yesterday. Where have you been?" Lei Xingfeng nodded and said to Jean Dia and Mad Eagle, "You guys wait here. I'll go in first." AI Pa Dao said, "Come with me. There's a place for you to rest." As Lei Xingfeng's status rose, he became more polite to Lei Xingfeng's subordinates. Lei Xingfeng walked into the backyard. Wu Yang lived in the house in the backyard. He walked into the house with ease and saw Wu Yang and Guqi sitting together with Feng Qinzhou. Lei Xingfeng was surprised. This was a gathering of the upper echelons of the hidden sect. Now, there were only 3 experts in the hidden sect, including himself. When Wu Yang saw Lei Xingfeng come in, he couldn't help but smile. "I was just talking about you. Come and sit. It's not easy to find you now. You come and go like a ghost." Lei Xingfeng laughed. Of course, with the mirror realm, it's very convenient to go anywhere. Because after becoming a sky monarch, he didn't want to hide it anymore. For a hidden sect, the mirror realm was a moving secret space. It had unparalleled value, especially in these turbulent times. He knew this very well. Wu Yang and Guqi stood up at the same time. Their faces were full of shock. This was too frightening. They all knew what the mirror realm was. Once this thing appeared and news spread, it would cause a storm of blood. They didn't know how Lei Xingfeng got his hands on it. Really, Guqi couldn't help but doubt. He couldn't believe that such a heaven-defying treasure could be obtained. This was something from legends. Wu Yang said, "Take us to see it." Feng Qinzhou was very curious. What's the mirror realm? He was Guqi's eldest disciple, the first to become a monarch. But compared to Lei Xingfeng, he was much worse. Whether it was talent or luck, the two couldn't be compared. He also had less experience. Guqi said, "The mirror realm is a moving secret space. The method to refine it has long been lost. It's an item passed down from ancient times. It's extremely rare. With the mirror realm, you have a moving home. The benefits are hard to imagine." Wu Yang said, "The biggest benefit is that it's the best place to escape. It's also the best transit station. No matter where you go, you can return to the mirror realm at any time. Then, through the mirror realm, you can go anywhere you want. The premise is that you've been there before. As the number of people in the mirror realm increases, the more places you go, the more transit stations there will be. It's equivalent to a large transportation hub. A phone, quickly take us to see it." Lei Xingfeng didn't refuse. This time, he wanted to let Wu Yang know that he had the mirror realm. He had some concerns before, but after becoming a monarch, those concerns disappeared. He was confident that he could control the mirror realm. He took Wu Yang, Guqi, and Feng Qinzhou directly into the mirror realm. Lei Xingfeng controlled the mirror realm and could bring people in and out at will. The others had to obtain authorization to do so. In an instant, the scene before Wu Yang and the others changed. They appeared in Lei Xingfeng's courtyard. Wu Yang felt it for a moment and said, Good place." Guqi said, "It's similar to the secret hidden space. We finally have a real base." "Ha, a phone. we're finally out of danger. The current camp was built in the forbidden area, but there were many hidden dangers. Whether it was Wu Yang or Gucci, they were both nervous and uneasy. Who knew what dangers there would be? The hidden sects couldn't withstand too many twists and turns. With the Mirror Realm, most people would have a safe place to hide. This place was truly safe. Lei Xingfeng took Wu Yang and the others to tour the Mirror Realm. When Wu Yang saw the steel dolls and metal spiders, he was amazed. These things were a kind of fighting force. They didn't fear death and were the best cannon fodder. Wu Yang said, "Feng, we need to set up a large warehouse in the Mirror Realm. Many of the hidden sects' shared assets need to be stored there." Lei Xingfeng agreed. "Ancestor, no problem." Gucci said, "The people outside the camp will have to move in. The camp's farmland can be abandoned after one season. We can also grow food here." Lei Xingfeng said, "There's a lot of empty space here. It's enough for our hidden sects. There's also a large portion that can only be used for planting trees." The Mirror Realm was very large. It wasn't much smaller than the original secret hidden space. There were only a few thousand people in the hidden sects. Most of them were ordinary people, the family members of the hidden sect's disciples. After walking around, Lei Xingfeng gave Wu Yang, Gucci, and Feng Chenzong the right to enter. Since the three of them had their own hidden sects, they could also bring people in. However, there was a limit to the number of people they could bring in. They couldn't be like Lei Xingfeng, who could bring in as many people as he wanted. Chapter 445. Just like that, Wu Yang, Gucci, and Feng Chenzong were all very satisfied. With the Mirror Realm, they dared to explore the Forbidden Land. After leaving the Mirror Realm, Wu Yang immediately sent people to gather the direct disciples and began to assign tasks. There was no place for them to live in the Mirror Realm, so they had to rebuild it. Therefore, most of the people in the camp had to enter the Mirror Realm, leaving only a few behind to look after the camp. After a few days of busy work, most of the people entered the Mirror Realm and began to build villages. The direct disciples also began to build their own residences. With the Mirror Realm, Wu Yang, Gucci, and Feng Chenzong planned to explore the Forbidden Land again. This time, they planned to go deep into the Forbidden Land's core area. No matter what, now that they had a way out, the three of them became bolder. On this day, Wu Yang, Gucci, and Feng Chenzong were all in the courtyard of Lei Xingfeng's residence. They sat in a spacious wooden shed with all kinds of exquisite dishes on the table. The four of them ate and chatted. Wu Yang said, "I left some coordinates of the places I've been to. Feng, you can use them too. We'll record the places we've been to and form a transportation network. In the future, we don't have to go to places one by one. As long as someone from the secret sect has been to a place, others can go there too. This saves a lot of time." Gucci said, "Yes, I also left a lot of coordinates, but not as many as the places your founder has been to." Lei Xingfeng said, "I found two good places. One is the Magnetic Storm Mountain, and the other is the Ice Palace. It's a good place for lightning attribute cultivation and ice attribute cultivation. I think there should be other good places for cultivation here. It's just that we haven't found them yet." Wu Yang said, "Yes, I'm also looking for such a treasure land. So far, I haven't found it. This place is too big. It's impossible to travel far without a few months' time. Especially since we can't fly recklessly here, we can't travel far. But this time, with the Mirror Realm, we can set off far away and come back at any time. This is really important." In fact, Wu Yang and the others could use the secret door to go back and forth, but it would not be as convenient as using the Mirror Realm. After all, the coordinates that the secret door could accommodate were limited, unlike the Mirror Realm, which could accommodate almost unlimited coordinates. Lei Xingfeng asked, "Ancestor, is there any news from the Dawn Continent?" Wu Yang shook his head and said, "There's no news from the Dawn Continent. Almost everyone has retreated here. The bridgehead there has been abandoned. Our secret sect strength isn't enough to open a passage to the Dawn Continent, let alone develop it. The natives there are stronger than us. Let's see if there's a passage out here." Gucci added, "Many Dao Lords are looking for a way out. Once they find one, they'll let us know." Lei Xingfeng said, "So, The Dawn continent has been completely abandoned? Wu Yang smiled. That should be the case. But if we can't find a way out here, we still have to return to the Dawn continent. About the Mirror Realm, our secret sect must keep it a secret. We can't let any news out. The Mirror Realm is enough to attract the greed of Dao Lords. Although we're not afraid, it's very troublesome. Gucci said that's right. We have to remind everyone of this. No, we have to warn everyone not to leak anything. If anyone dares to leak anything, they'll be kicked out immediately. I'll take care of this. Feng Qinzong said, this time, a friend invited me to explore a forbidden area. At first, I was hesitant, but with the Mirror Realm, I want to take a look. Wu Yang said, you're going together? Feng Qinzong nodded. Yes, and 2 monarchs. We'll go together. Wu Yang said, if there's any danger, are you going to bring them into the Mirror Realm? Feng Qinzong was stunned. He held his forehead. This, Wu Yang scolded. That's bullsh**. If you bring people into the Mirror Realm, the news will be leaked immediately. Can't you use your brain? Feng Qinzong smiled bitterly and shook his head. Yes, I was careless. Forget it. I won't go. He broke out in a cold sweat just thinking about it. Going together was always a friend. If they were in danger, should he save them or not? He couldn't just run away and leave his friends to die. That wasn't his personality. It would be unwise to go this time. Lei Xingfeng smiled. Let's organize our own people to explore. It's not suitable for us to bring outsiders unless they join us. Wu Yang nodded. That's right. A phone. The Mirror Realm should be able to connect directly to the original hidden space, right? Lei Xingfeng said, yes, but if we leave the outer realm, it'll be difficult to connect to the hidden space. It'll take a lot of energy. It's not worth it. Wu Yang said, that's good. As long as we can still connect, it's better than having our own hidden door. I think there are still some people left on their original continents. We can ask them to bring them over. We have too few people, especially ordinary people and low-level cultivators. Gucci said, if we didn't have the Mirror Realm, I wouldn't have any ideas. Now that we have it, our hidden door needs to have a good foundation. Gathering people is a must. They wanted to make the Mirror Realm into a self-sufficient base. Lei Xingfeng understood that opening the hidden door and searching for a new world meant that this base was very important. It meant that they had the most reliable support. No matter how hard they fought, there would always be a warm place to rest behind them. Soon, the hidden door's upper echelons reached an agreement. Feng Qinzong was responsible for the migration. He needed to bring a group of people back to the hidden space and organize a team to find suitable people to migrate to the mainland. Some of the sects that had been abandoned on the mainland had to be recontacted and brought with them some people. The initial number was about 10,000 people. While they were chatting, lightning suddenly flashed in the courtyard. Elder Thunderstorm suddenly appeared in the courtyard. Lei Xingfeng hurriedly stood up. Yi is back. Elder Thunderstorm's appearance caused an unparalleled pressure to appear. Wu Yang, Gucci, and Feng Qinzong were all surprised. Following Elder Thunderstorm's laughter, the enormous pressure gradually dissipated. The flashing lightning in the courtyard also dissipated bit by bit, revealing Elder Thunderstorm's true body. Wu Yang muttered to himself, good heavens, another monarch realm expert. Gucci said, how is this possible? Thunderstorm smiled. Everyone's here. I'm back. Then he strode into the wooden shed. Lei Xingfeng said happily, Yi, you did it. Thunderstorm smiled proudly. Of course, if I didn't succeed, I would have died in the magnetic storm mountains. My luck is good. I made it through. If it wasn't for Lei Xingfeng giving him a large amount of thunder plasma, he wouldn't have succeeded so easily. Because he had enough thunder plasma, he used the most barbaric method to forcefully cultivate the most basic technique. This allowed him to be completely reborn, eliminating some of the hidden dangers left behind in the past. Because he succeeded, Thunderstorm's lifespan was extended again. This made Elder Thunderstorm very happy. At least he felt that he could still protect his grandchildren. Wu Yang smiled. Congratulations, congratulations. Gucci also said, brother, congratulations. I didn't expect our hidden sect to have another great expert. Thunderstorm said, "It was just luck, just luck." Everyone could hear the joy in Elder Thunderstorm's words. Thinking about it, to be able to directly reach the monarch realm from a ninth ring sage was a big deal. Lei Xingfeng sighed. Just the basic technique can reach the level of a monarch realm expert. I wonder how powerful the experts in the forbidden area are. We seem to have lost a lot of effective cultivation methods. When I saw eldest senior brother reach the monarch realm, it was really difficult. Compared to the cultivation methods here, the difference is too big. Wu Yang said, "You might not be cultivating the basic technique. Without a certain level, you can't cultivate the technique of the magnetic storm mountains. You'll be killed by lightning if you go in." Lei Xingfeng said, "And the real basic technique is probably at the same level as us. This should be the advanced version of the basic technique. It should be a transition. It's very different from our cultivation system." Wu Yang said, "I wonder what awaits us in front." He was also a little lost. He used to think that the continent where the secret chamber was located was the real place for cultivators. Now, it seemed that he had made the wrong choice. Relatively speaking, he was a more conservative person, which meant that he was more concerned about his family. He did not want his disciples to take risks. Gucci was also confused. His originally stable life had become more and more unstable. Luckily, Lei Xingfeng got the mirror world. Otherwise, he would be even more uncertain. Although the hidden sect didn't lose any disciples, he knew that if they continued, they would inevitably encounter danger. He was similar to Wu Yang. They were both very protective and very caring. The entire hidden sect was their home. Losing any disciples was something he couldn't bear. Feng Qinzong left the courtyard. He had to organize people to return to the hidden space and start the migration. Lei Xingfeng asked, "Ancestor, how's your advancement?" Wu Yang sighed. "I don't want to use the original method to advance. I hope to find a suitable cultivation technique." Seeing Lei Xingfeng and Thunderstorm's advancement, especially Lei Xingfeng's, gave him the idea of looking for a forbidden area to cultivate. He now understood that there was a big problem with the cultivation technique he was cultivating. Someone as amazing as him wouldn't be satisfied with mediocrity. He could cultivate to the peak of the heavenly monarch realm with a mediocre cultivation technique. If he changed his cultivation technique, he was confident that he could become a Tao monarch. If he could get a forbidden area's cultivation technique, Wu Yang was even confident that he could advance further. The only problem was that he couldn't find a suitable cultivation technique. It required time, effort, and manpower. Because of the large forbidden areas, not many people dare to go there. Even Tao monarchs didn't dare to set foot in the core areas. But now it was different. With the mirror world, he could go to the core areas. If there was any danger, he just had to hide in the mirror world. Chapter 446. Lei Xingfeng said, "Ancestor, let's go." Wu Yang said, "It's not that easy." "Oh, right, a phone, come with me." Gucci also reacted and laughed. "Yes, let a phone go with us. This kid's luck is unbelievable." "Huh." Thunderstorm also laughed. "This kid's luck is really good. A phone, you go with Ancestor." Lei Xingfeng nodded. He didn't know many forbidden areas, but Wu Yang was different. He knew a lot of big forbidden areas. He didn't dare to go before, but now that he had the mirror world, his courage grew. Gucci said, "I'll go with you." "Brother, are you coming too?" Thunderstorm shook his head. "I'll rest for a while, then go to the magnetic storm mountains. I want to find a way to enter the back of the mountains. I think there should be intermediate or advanced cultivation techniques there." Gucci nodded. "That's good. It's good to have an expert at home." Wu Yang asked, "Gao Yi isn't in the mirror world?" Lei Xingfeng said, "Uncle Gao is looking for a suitable cultivation technique. We found an ice palace that suits his attribute, but we haven't found a cultivation technique yet, so he stayed in the ice palace to explore." Wu Yang and Gucci looked envious. Wu Yang said, "Damn, everyone can find a suitable forbidden area, but I can't. Ah, this luck." Gucci said, "I'm even more determined to let a phone go with us." "Haha, I believe that a phone will find it." Lei Xingfeng sweated. He said, "Ah, master, you can't say that. The pressure is too great. Wu Yong, Gucci, and Thunderstorm laughed. Wu Yong said, with pressure comes motivation. A phone. It's all up to you this time. Lei Xingfeng shamelessly said, then I won't go. I can't take it. If I can't find a suitable cultivation technique for Grandmaster, what am I going to do? I won't go. Wu Yong immediately comforted him. It's okay. If you can't find it, the patriarch won't blame you. As long as you go, everything will be fine. In fact, we've already found a big forbidden area, but we didn't dare to go deep. This time, the three of us will go together. Anyway, if we can't get through, we'll go back to the mirror realm and start again. Gucci also said, a phone. No one will blame you if you can't find it. We've been searching for a long time, but we haven't found anything big. The main reason is that we can't go deep. This time, with the mirror realm, we should have a big harvest. Wu Yong said, yeah, I never thought that a phone would be able to find such a treasure. The mirror realm, it's really hard to imagine. Lei Xingfeng came to Thunderstorm's side and whispered, Yi, little sister has obtained the right to enter and exit the mirror realm. If she needs anything in the future, she can come in at any time. Yi, when you stay in the mirror realm, be careful. Little sister might come back at any time. Thunderstorm said happily, we found little sister's secret door. That's great. Our family can finally reunite at any time. Thunderstorm then sighed. Finally, we have a decent home. Lei Xingfeng sighed in his heart. Since leaving Tiger Cliff Castle, he finally had a home that he could come and go freely. Moreover, this was a super big family. Lei Xingfeng had never been so satisfied in his previous life or this life. Although the people in this family were always running around, Lei Xingfeng could still come back. Just this point alone made Lei Xingfeng cherish it very much. Ishao came in and said, a phone. The new house is ready. It's just next door. There are 2 houses in total. It's already decorated. This was the house that Lei Xingfeng had prepared for Yi and little sister. The construction had been arranged long ago, and it was only recently completed. Lei Xingfeng laughed. Yi, I prepared a house for you. The left is little sister's, and the right is Yi's. Thunderstorm didn't mind where they lived, but he was very happy that his grandson had thought of this. Wu Yong said, a phone, where's our house? Lei Xingfeng laughed. Founder, you have to build it yourself. Wu Yong sighed. Really, the founder is not as good as Yi. A phone is more biased. Gucci laughed. Master, you're jealous. Wu Yong said, no, I'm not. I'm not convinced. We're all in the same generation, but a phone definitely treats us differently. Lei Xingfeng raised his hands in surrender. Okay, I'll build it. Wu Yong laughed. That's more like it, hee. Gucci laughed. Haha, master. You have a nerve to bully my disciple. Wu Yong glared at him and said, your disciple is my disciple. So what? You're not convinced? With the master pressuring the disciple could only surrender. Gucci mimicked Exine phone and raised his hands. I surrender. I dare not surrender. Wu Yong laughed proudly and said, haha, little guy, just don't talk nonsense. He had no choice. If the master wanted to be shameless, the disciple really couldn't do anything about it. Lei Bao laughed and left, returning to his own house. Wuri said, we're leaving too, Feng. You rest for a few days. When we're ready, we'll go to the forbidden grounds together. Lei Xingfeng nodded in agreement. This wasn't something he could refuse, and he didn't want to. It wasn't easy to find a forbidden area on the mainland. Now that there was a forbidden area, of course he wanted to join the fun. With the Mirror Realm, he was confident that he could benefit from a forbidden area. This was the best place to accumulate strength. Once he left, it would be difficult to find a place like this again. Jean Dia and Mad Eagle followed Feng Chenzong back to the hidden space. Their mission was to help Feng Chenzong transfer people. This was a secret mission, and there were rings as a reward. Of course, the two didn't need rings as much right now, because Lei Xingfeng had provided enough. A few days later, Lei Xingfeng met up with the ancestral master. The 3 of them had finished their preparations and were just waiting to depart. Wu Yong said, this time, we'll leave through the Mirror Realm and see how it goes. He knew a lot of places. If they left from a camp outside, it would take a few months. Now, they could reach their destination directly with the Mirror Realm. The three of them left the Mirror Realm. Lei Xingfeng asked, "What is this place?" Wu Yang said, "Extermination Plains." This place is called Extermination Plains. It's a large forbidden area, and it's well preserved. Dao Lords have come to explore before, but they didn't dare to go too deep. The restrictions are still intact, and it's very risky to enter. Lei Xingfeng said, "Extermination Plains Great Forbidden Area?" Gucci smiled. "That's right. I've only wandered around the periphery a few times, but I didn't dare to go too deep." Wu Yang said, "You've been here before?" Gucci said, "Yeah, I've been here before. This place is very famous. I came here with a few friends, but when we encountered the first restriction, we left. We didn't dare to touch it at all." Wu Yang said, "The outer restriction can be broken through, but once you enter, the restriction's power will chase after you. It's very hard to avoid. Without a certain level of strength, you can't block it at all. It's very wise of you not to go in." Gucci said, "Yeah, I saw that something was wrong, so I left immediately." Wu Yang said, "Let's go. I'll take you to a weak point in the restriction. It'll be easier to enter from there." There was a dense forest here. In a large forbidden area, no one dared to fly. They didn't even dare to fly close to the trees. They could only walk on the ground. Lei Xingfeng walked at the front. He held a huge machete in his hand and chopped through the dense thorns and branches. Wu Yang pointed out the direction, and the three of them trudged through the forest with difficulty. They didn't know how many years it had been since anyone came to this forest. The dense forest almost took up all the space. In the forest, it was dark and quiet. There were no large beasts here, but there were all kinds of small animals. There were also countless poisonous insects and snakes. Along the way, Lei Xingfeng couldn't remember how many snakes had tried to bite him. Unfortunately, Lei Xingfeng wasn't an ordinary person. As soon as those snakes got close, they were immediately sent flying by the electric arcs that emerged from Lei Xingfeng's body. Lei Xingfeng waved his huge machete. With one chop, broken branches and leaves flew everywhere. He said, "Ancestor, this path is very difficult. Did we go the wrong way?" Boom! A muffled sound came from not far away. Lei Xingfeng stopped. He said, "What's wrong?" Wu Yang's face darkened. He said, "Someone's entering the first restriction." Gucci said, "Should we wait for a while? Avoid them for now?" Wu Yang said, "No need. Let's go." He ran past Lei Xingfeng. In an instant, the surrounding trees and thorns were all shattered. He ran forward wildly. Lei Xingfeng muttered, I've been chopping for half a day. Isn't it tiring?" He put away his machete and ran forward with Wu Yang. The three of them ran quickly through the forest. After a while, they saw flashes and vibrations in front of them. Wu Yang suddenly stopped. He raised his hand and signaled for them to stop. Lei Xingfeng came to his side. He said, "Who is it?" Wu Yang said, "I don't know. There are two people." Lei Xingfeng looked over. A few hundred meters away, a large area of the forest was destroyed. The ground was covered with broken tree trunks and leaves. It was a mess. However, this also broadened his field of vision. He could clearly see the two people attacking. Lei Xingfeng whispered, "Ancestor, do you know them?" Wu Yang shook his head. "No, they seem very strong. I hope they're not Dao monarchs. If they were Dao monarchs, even the three of them together might not be a match for them." Therefore, once they confirmed that they were Dao monarchs, he would not hesitate to take them back to the mirror world. Gucci said they went in. Lei Xingfeng said, "That person is of the wind attribute. He's so powerful." Wu Yang said, "Yes, he should be at the peak of the heavenly monarch realm. I can't see through the person beside him. I don't know if he's a Dao monarch. We should be careful." A peak heavenly monarch was about the same as Wu Yang. If it was a Dao monarch, once there was a conflict, the three of them would have no chance. They could only escape. Of course, with the mirror world, they were not particularly afraid of Dao monarchs. Wu Yang thought for a moment and said, "Let's go in from another place. If we go in from here, we'll meet them sooner or later." There were always plenty of people who entered the great forbidden ground, but there were many who entered the first layer of restriction and very few who entered the second layer. Those who could enter the second layer were at least peak stage heaven monarchs. The outer perimeter of the great forbidden ground had basically been explored, and only the inner circle was the real juicy meat. Everyone wanted to take a bite, but not everyone had such good teeth. There were too many people who had broken their teeth. Chapter 447. Gucci said, "Yeah, let's go somewhere else. Damn it, very few people come here. We haven't even entered yet, and we've already seen 2 people." The 3 of them turned around and walked all the way down along the outer circle. Wu Yang said, "That place just now wasn't the real weak point. With one look, we can tell that those 2 people have never been here before. They must have heard the news from others and came here." Lei Xingfeng sighed. "I thought I was pretty strong, but I didn't know until I went outside that there's always someone better than me. Alas, we're still far from it. Just one restriction is enough to make us helpless, not to mention the other traps." Wu Yang said, "This restriction can't stop us. Actually, some powerful restrictions aren't dangerous. As long as you can't break them, you'll be fine. But if you break them, you'll be in trouble." Lei Xingfeng smiled. "If we go in, it'll be full of traps or puppets." Wu Yang said, "Puppets are nothing. The main thing is the various restrictions and traps. Those things are more troublesome. If we're not careful, we'll be trapped inside. Even a heavenly monarch realm expert can be trapped and die." Lei Xingfeng knew this very well. Whether it was the secret door of a Dao Lord or a heavenly monarch, it couldn't be opened under some powerful restrictions. This highlighted the value of the mirror realm. The mirror realm could almost ignore the restrictions of restrictions and open the secret door to leave at will. About 2 hours later, the 3 came to a gentle slope. Wu Yang said, "This is a weak point. I'll open it. You don't have to come in. Once I'm there, I'll take you in through the mirror realm." Boom! Wu Yang fiercely slammed his head into it. In an instant, his whole body emitted traces of white light. He actually slammed into the restriction and disappeared in a few breaths. Lei Xingfeng was stunned. "Has the founder always been so fierce?" Wu Yang said, "This place, your founder is used to it. He's probably been here many times. This level of restriction is no longer a threat." Lei Xingfeng said, "All right, let's return to the mirror realm." The 2 of them suddenly disappeared. A moment later, Wu Yang led Lei Xingfeng and Gucci into the restriction. Lei Xingfeng smiled and said, "This saved a lot of effort. Not only would it save effort, but it would also save a lot of risk." Lei Xingfeng had an idea. He said, "We will explore separately. If there is any danger that we cannot handle, we will return to the mirror realm and wait for the others to come back. Of course, it must be a valuable place." Wu Yang applauded and said, "That's a good idea. The forbidden area is very big. If we walk all the way, the area we explore will be too small. This way, we can discover as much as possible." Gucci didn't have any objections. Lei Xingfeng said, "I have some steel dolls here. I'll give you some. If there are some dangerous places, you can use them to explore. Even if they are destroyed, you won't feel bad." Lei Xingfeng transferred a few dozen steel dolls to Wu Yang and Gucci. He also transferred 6 metal spiders. These things weren't strong, but they had thick skin and could be used as shields to delay the enemy's movements. They were very good substitutes. They could at least buy a few seconds for their owners. With this buffer time, they would be able to return to the mirror realm. Wu Yang and Gucci put the steel dolls and metal spiders into their hidden loon spaces. There was no need to use them now. They would only be released when needed. The 3 of them quickly separated and walked in different directions. After walking for a while, Lei Xingfeng immediately released Jing Zia and 2 gold dolls. He also released a steel dolls to scout ahead. He wasn't stupid enough to walk in front. Who knew what would be ahead? This road wasn't really a road anymore. There were still some broken stone slabs on the ground. Dense weeds completely covered the road. The only thing that confirmed it was a road was the tall trees on the side of the road. The original road had a solid foundation, so most of it was covered in weeds and small trees. This made it obvious. Lei Xingfeng could tell that it was a road. The steel puppet beast walked forward step by step, creating loud rumbling sounds. This thing was too heavy, and every step it took created a hole in the ground. Lei Xingfeng and Jing Zia were about 30 meters away from the steel dolls. They watched as the steel dolls moved forward. Boom! In an instant, the steel dolls disappeared, leaving behind a dazzling light. When the light dissipated, nothing was left. Lei Xingfeng was stunned. He said, "What's that?" Jing Zia, "Did you see it clearly?" Jing Zia shook her head and said, "No, I didn't see it clearly. I don't know what it is." This time, Lei Xingfeng didn't dare to move. He said, "Then release another steel dolls. I don't believe that I can't see it clearly." Jing Zia said, "Okay." Xian Feng immediately released a steel mannequin beast and pointed with his finger, "Follow it and walk forward." The steel dolls didn't care about life or death. They only listened to orders. They took big steps and walked forward. Very quickly, they arrived at the place where the steel mannequin beast had disappeared. Xian Feng and Jing Zia both stared fixedly, wanted to see what kind of thing could instantly kill a steel mannequin beast. Lei Xingfeng and Jing Zia looked at each other. They didn't expect the steel dolls to pass by without any accidents. Lei Xingfeng said with a wry smile, "What's this?" Jing Zia knew more about restrictions than Lei Xingfeng. She said, "This is a one-time restriction. It's too insidious. They put a one-time killing restriction on the road. Even I would be at a disadvantage if I encountered it." Lei Xingfeng couldn't help but click his tongue. There's such a restriction? It's too deceptive. He was thinking about something else. If he encountered such a trap, it would be fine if he could resist it. But what if he couldn't? He believed that he wouldn't have time to escape to the mirror world when he saw the one-time restriction just now. Lei Xingfeng understood that the big forbidden areas were much more dangerous than the small ones. Jing Zia said, "This restriction must have been set up by an expert." Lei Xingfeng said, "Let's go. The steel dolls have gone down." As he said that, he walked forward quickly. With the steel dolls as cannon fodder, Lei Xingfeng didn't care about this kind of trap. Anyway, losing a few steel dolls was nothing to him. He had obtained a large number of steel dolls, and now he had people who specialized in repairing them. Soon, a large flat area appeared. It was a square paved with huge stone slabs. However, countless weeds grew from the gaps between the slabs, forming a grid. At first glance, it looked very neat. Behind it were countless collapsed houses, and a few half-collapsed defensive towers could be faintly seen. Lei Xingfeng had seen a lot of such towers, and he knew that there were often steel dolls and energy crystals in them. As for the collapsed houses, Lei Xingfeng knew that there was basically nothing there. After such a long time, he knew that when the people of this low-level residential area left, they basically took everything with them. Only the higher-ups would leave behind valuable things because they didn't care. This was also the key reason why everyone wanted to enter the core area after entering the forbidden area. Only there could they find useful things there. The two of them looked at each other and ran toward the tower together. After a while, they arrived at the half-collapsed tower. Jing Zia ordered the steel dolls to enter, and Lei Xingfeng followed. Lei Xingfeng looked at the clean ground and couldn't help but touch his nose. He smiled bitterly and said, "It seems that we are late. Even if there were things, they were taken away. Not even a strand of hair is left." Jing Zia said, "This is a big forbidden area. We may not be able to enter the core area, but who knows how many people have come to the periphery. Even if there were any treasures, they would have been taken away long ago. There isn't much to gain here." She still had a straight face and didn't smile. Lei Xingfeng had long been accustomed to this. After all, she was a doll, not a person. Yes, even if there are relics in the periphery, they are not worth searching. Let's continue. The two of them didn't delay and continued to go deeper. The steel dolls were still leading the way. Soon, the road ahead disappeared and a lush forest appeared in front of them. The steel dolls stopped. They didn't know where to go. There were dense trees in front of them. Lei Xingfeng and Jing Zia walked to the side of the steel dolls. Lei Xingfeng said, "There is no road." He looked around for a moment and said, "Strange, there is no fork in the road." "There is no road." Jing Zia said, "The only reason is that this is the road to a certain destination. Since we are here, there is naturally no road." Lei Xingfeng's spirit was lifted. He said, "That's right. So the secret is in the forest? Jingzia said, "It should be so." Lei Xingfeng didn't dare to fly up. He came to a big tree and climbed up nimbly. Soon, he reached the top of the tree and looked into the depths of the forest. Countless lights of treasures shone through the forest. Lei Xingfeng said in surprise, "Oh my God, there is a treasure." He was very familiar with this kind of light. He didn't know when it started, but his eyes could see through everything. As long as there was a treasure, he would know clearly. It was this eyesight that had brought him countless benefits. Sliding down from the tree, Lei Xingfeng said, "Let's go in. There should be a lot of good things here." Jingzia asked, "What is it?" Lei Xingfeng said, "I don't know what it is, but it must be a good treasure." Jingzia looked at Lei Xingfeng speechlessly. His words were a bit unreliable. However, since it was Lei Xingfeng who said it, she had to listen to him regardless of whether it was reliable or not. She said, "Okay, let's go in. Let the steel dolls go first." Lei Xingfeng didn't object to this. He said, "Okay, I will take another steel dolls. One is not enough." He released another steel dolls. This one carried a huge axe in its hand and walked into the forest first. It walked in a straight line. When it encountered a big tree, it chopped it down with a few strokes of its axe. No matter whether it was a big or small tree, it was chopped down. Another steel dolls cleaned up behind it. Its speed wasn't fast, but it wasn't slow either. The steel mannequin bee's strength was incomparably great. A tree as thick as a person's arm could be chopped down in 2 to 3 strikes. As for a tree as thick as a water bucket, it could be chopped down with a single strike. Rumbling sounds of trees collapsing filled the air as the steel mannequin beast forcefully opened a path through the dense forest. Although it wasn't easy to walk, it didn't hinder Xian Feng and Jing Zia's progress. Chapter 448. Lei Xingfeng said, "Be careful. There should be a restriction formation ahead, right?" Jing Zia shook her head and said, "I don't know. We have to run into it." However, the puppet beasts rushed out of the forest without finding any restriction formations. Lei Xingfeng was surprised to find that this was a huge orchard. Even after so many years, it was still intact. The ridges were 1-meter-long walkways made of green bricks, which divided the orchard into numerous squares. In each square, there was a fruit tree. Of course, there were countless weeds and short trees around the fruit trees, which filled the square. However, the fruit trees were still growing well. Most of them were dozens of meters tall and had countless fruits on them. Jing Zia said in disappointment, "This is an orchard, not a treasure." Lei Xingfeng said, "It's hard to say. Sometimes I like fruits more than treasures." This was food. He had always believed that eating was very important, especially when it came to specialty food. Looking at the fruits on the fruit tree, he actually felt a trace of excitement in his heart. Lei Xingfeng didn't recognize most of the fruit trees here. There were all kinds of fruits in different colors and sizes, but they all looked delicious. Lei Xingfeng said excitedly, "This is not bad. I plan to try it first. If it's delicious, I'll transplant it to the mirror world." On the road, they were collecting materials. Food was also an important resource. Since Lei Xingfeng saw it, he wouldn't let it go. Lei Xingfeng said, "First, search the surroundings. If there is no danger, I'll mobilize people from the mirror world." This was the advantage of having the mirror world. A large number of people could be mobilized at any time. It was much better than being alone. The steel puppet beasts were not suitable for searching, so Lei Xingfeng released a dozen silver puppet beasts to search for danger. The dozen or so silver puppet beasts quickly spread out and searched in all directions. Xian Feng came to a large tree and raised his head to look. This tree was at least 20 meters tall, verdant and lush, its dark green leaves adorned with bright red fruits. Seeing Lei Xingfeng raise his head, Jing Zia put her hand on his forehead and said, "Don't you want to try it?" Xian Feng didn't speak and directly walked to the bottom of the tree. With a leap, he climbed onto the first branch of the tree and climbed up the tree as nimbly as a monkey. Very quickly, he broke off a branch that was as thick as an arm that was filled with fruits. The fruits were very strange. They were shaped like grapes. There were bunches of fruits. Each fruit was the size of an egg. They were all bright red. There were more than 30 fruits in a bunch, and they were heavy and emitting a strong, fruity fragrance. Xian Feng plucked one and threw into his mouth. Biting it, the fruit juice splattered everywhere. That sweet and fragrant smell made him squint his eyes. This fruit was delicious. He simply couldn't stop eating. A bunch of fruits were quickly eaten by Xian Feng. Smacking his lips, he picked another bunch and continued eating. After a while, the silver puppet returned. Lei Xingfeng came down from the tree and counted all the fruits. He said, "It seems that there is no danger." He immediately summoned a large number of people from the mirror world. Of course, he didn't dare to call ordinary people. They were all cultivators with at least one ring. Ishan asked, "Where is this place?" Lei Xingfeng said with a smile, "The orchard in the forbidden area. Hee, it's full of good things. Let's pick them first and then transplant them." Ishan nodded and began to assign tasks. Jean Depang rushed to Lei Xingfeng and said, "This is an orchard? What delicious fruits are there?" Lei Xingfeng handed him a bunch of fruits and said, "I only ate this. You guys have to taste the rest." Jean Depang ate one and his eyes widened. This is delicious. What's its name?" Lei Xingfeng shook his head. "I don't know. I've rarely seen the fruits here. I don't recognize most of them. I guess they are very good." Jean Depang was a foodie. He said, "I'll arrange the processing. Put the fresh fruits in a big box made of blackwood. They can be stored for a long time. The rest can be made into dried fruits or candied fruits." Lei Xingfeng reminded them, "You can't fly here. You can only climb up the tree. Otherwise, you will be attacked. With your strength, you won't be able to block it. One hit and you will die." Everyone nodded. They all knew that this place was very dangerous. They were excited to be able to enter the legendary forbidden area. Lei Xingfeng continued, "If something happens, go back to the mirror world if you can. If you can't, gather here immediately. Remember, don't think that you can deal with the danger. Even a monarch has to be careful here. You guys have to be even more careful." Jean Dia and Tiger Love also followed. They both had the right to enter and exit the mirror world. They were stronger than most cultivators. If there was danger, they could go back directly. Jean Depang took out a big box made of black wood and began to assign tasks. They picked the fruits according to the area. He began to taste the fruits one by one. Everyone was overjoyed. Many cultivators had rarely been to other places except for the secret hidden space and the mirror realm. Now that they could come to the legendary forbidden area, they were all very excited. They were all full of energy and were busy picking the fruits. Lei Xingfeng gathered about 600 cultivators. Most of them were from the secret sect, not his subordinates. Of course, with his current strength and status, it was no problem for him to gather these people. This orchard was about 1,000 mu in size, but there weren't many fruit trees. A square made of bluestone occupied about half a mu of land. 1,000 mu of land only had about 2,000 different fruit trees. It was very convenient to pick them. After all, these people were all cultivators. They were all very powerful people. Picking fruits was a very simple matter. Even ordinary people could do it. Boxes of fruits were sent to the Mirror World's warehouse. Of course, many people also put the fruits into their hidden lune space. No one cared. After half a day of work, the entire orchard was basically cleaned. The fruits were all picked and stored in the Mirror World's warehouse. Lei Xingfeng arranged for everyone to start digging the fruit trees. When the first fruit tree was dug out, Xian Feng suddenly raised his head and let out a long howl. "Gather!" A buzzing sound came, followed by all kinds of explosions. Dozens of figures ran back in a sorry state. Lei Xingfeng hurriedly put them into the mirror world. At this time, he saw a shocking scene. A dense swarm of insects flew from a distance and kept attacking. The people below shouted and ran away. Lei Xingfeng said, "What are they?" Jing Zia said, "Ink-stained bees, poisonous bees." They ignored defense. Hearing this, Lei Xingfeng's heart couldn't help but tighten. He shouted, "Quick, come here." Then he released a dozen steel puppet beasts and asked them to rush over to cover the insects. Jing Zia said, "I'll go." She jumped and ran toward the crowd. Lei Xingfeng quickly put the people who were close to him into the mirror world and ran after her. He raised his hand, and a thunderbolt instantly destroyed a large number of ink-stained bees. Only then did Lei Xingfeng notice that the ink-stained bees were quite large, a little similar to honey powder. Each of them was the size of a child's fist. They looked very scary. After rescuing several paralyzed practitioners, Lei Xingfeng quickly moved them into the mirror world. In a moment, everyone had entered the mirror world to hide, leaving only Lei Xingfeng, Jing Zia, and the steel puppet beasts. These ink-stained bees didn't attack the steel puppet beasts, as if they knew that it was useless. All the ink-stained bees rushed toward Lei Xingfeng. Lei Xingfeng didn't care. He directly put the newly built defense net outside his body. This thing was more powerful than any defense. The attack of the ink-stained bees was to shoot out stingers. Once they were shot out, they would turn into shadows. Only when they came into contact with a human body would they turn into real objects. Therefore, ordinary defenses were useless. However, Lei Xingfeng's defense was different. The net he formed could easily block the stingers, and the powerful current could quickly turn them into ashes. The densely packed, ink-stained bees attacked, and in an instant, Xian Feng's entire defense net gave off a dazzling light. With a pop-pa sound, the ground was quickly filled with countless ink-stained bees' corpses. Jing Zia said calmly, "Some of your people are poisoned. If they can't be detoxified in time, they will die." Xian Feng looked helplessly at Jing Zia and the group of mannequin beasts. They were standing there, but the ink-stained purple bees didn't care about them at all, bypassing them and pouncing towards Xian Feng. Swarm after swarm of ink-streak wasps pounced forward, but their stingers were turned into ashes by the electric net. Once the ink-streak wasps shot out their stingers, it meant death. They fell down in droves and quickly piled up. After tens of thousands of ink-stained bees died, the surrounding bees became sparse. Soon, the bees were almost all dead. Lei Xingfeng said, "What do you use to detoxify them? Do you need medicine?" Jing Zia said, "Of course. The hive of the ink-stained bees is a sacred antidote. The honey of the ink-stained bees is extremely precious. I didn't expect that there would be such bees here." Lei Xingfeng said, "Okay, let's go find a hive." The steel puppet beasts also began to search. Lei Xingfeng led Jing Zia to track the bees. Soon, they came to the edge of the orchard and searched along the edge, looking for traces of the ink-stained bees. After searching for a long time, they couldn't find any traces. Lei Xingfeng couldn't help but feel discouraged. What the hell? Where do they come from? Jing Zia shook her head and said, "I've only heard of the ink-stained bees, but I never know where their hive is. I can't help you." The steel puppet beasts all came back, but they also didn't find anything. Lei Xingfeng put away the steel puppet beasts and said, "If we can't find a hive, we can't detoxify them. Strange, did we just provoke the ink-stained bees?" Jing Zia said, "Digging a tree." Lei Xingfeng suddenly understood and said, "That's too strange. Digging a tree will provoke the ink-stained bees?" Jing Zia said calmly, "There were no ink-stained bees when we picked the fruit, but when we dug a tree, a group of ink-stained bees came. I think we were digging a tree." Chapter 449. Lei Xingfeng said, "Okay, let's dig the tree." Jing Zia immediately ordered the puppets to dig the tree. They had just dug a big hole when a small group of purple bees flew over. Lei Xingfeng said, "Sure enough, they are digging the tree. Do you see where these purple bees came from? Over there." Lei Xingfeng broke into a run. The group of purple bees attacked with all their might. Unfortunately, Lei Xingfeng's lightning net was too powerful. Once it was attacked, the purple bees would be dead for sure. Jing Zia said, "They came from this forest." Lei Xingfeng immediately rushed in and said in surprise, "I see it." Many purple bees were crawling on a huge ancient tree. Half of the ancient tree had withered, and there was a large crack in the tree. Lei Xingfeng said, "This should be where the purple bees' hive is." When the purple bees discovered Lei Xingfeng, they immediately launched their most ferocious attacks. Unfortunately, Lei Xingfeng's cultivation technique perfectly restrained the purple bees. The purple bees couldn't hurt Lei Xingfeng at all. Lei Xingfeng released a few gold-grade puppets. Jing Zia immediately took over the command and began cutting down the ancient tree. Soon, most of the purple bees were dead. There were only a few purple bees left, but they couldn't threaten Lei Xingfeng at all. He watched with interest as the puppets quickly cut down the big tree, revealing the hive's tunnel. Then, the puppets dug down. When the entire tree was moved away and the roots were excavated, even Xian Phone was shocked. It was too big and too spectacular. As they were excavating along the outside of the beehive, they didn't touch the inside of the beehive, which was why the entire beehive seemed so huge. The black outer shell was a huge and ugly tumor-like thing buried deep in the ground. According to the digging, this thing was more than 10 meters in diameter and 20 meters deep, forming a huge hole. The puppets were not only strong, but they also didn't slack off. They quickly dug to the bottom. It looked like a pear with a thin top and a wide bottom. Lei Xingfeng asked, "How can we get the honey and the hive inside?" Jing Zia reminded him, "If you break it just like that, it's definitely not worth it. This thing is very rare. You can transplant it into the mirror world." Lei Xingfeng said, "I've already killed most of the purple bees. What's the point of moving them in?" Jing Zia said, "As long as the queen bee is here, there will be no problem. They will reproduce soon. Also, if you want to move the fruit forest in the mirror realm, you'd better move the purple bees in as well. The two should complement each other." Lei Xingfeng said, "No matter what, let's get some honey and beehives first. Saving people is more important." The outer shell of the violet bee nest was quite hard. It was 30 to 40 centimeters thick, like the skin of an animal. With a long knife in her hand, Jing Zia forcibly cut open a hole. Lei Xingfeng immediately smelled a sweet fragrance. As she opened the hole, the fragrance immediately became stronger. Lei Xingfeng said, "It smells so good." Jing Zia carefully cut open a triangle and gently opened the cover, revealing the net-like hive. Lei Xingfeng saw the honey of the ink-stained purple bees. It was dark purple and extremely sticky. Jing Zia said, "Give me a bottle." Lei Xingfeng immediately took out a big bottle and said, "Use this." The bottle made from melted crystals was produced by the secret sect. There were a lot of them. Lei Xingfeng usually put a lot of them in his hidden Luan space in case he needed them. Soon, he got a bottle full of purple and black honey. It was completely different from the golden honey Lei Xingfeng had seen before, but it smelled sweeter and refreshed. Lei Xingfeng carefully took it and said, "Continue to collect." With a wave of his hand, a row of crystal jars appeared on the ground. He took the jars and directly entered the mirror world. There were a lot of injured people. 17 or 18 people were lying under a huge wooden shed. Usually it was a small market, but today the shed was for the injured. The ground was covered with wooden boards, thick straw mats, and animal skins. A group of people was lying on top of them, groaning. Seeing Lei Xingfeng come in, Jean Dia hurried forward and said, "A foam, it's not good. We used the antidote, but it can only slightly alleviate the poison. What should we do?" Jean Depan ran over and said, "More than 10 people are injured. It's not easy to deal with. A foam, what is this? Why is it so poisonous?" Then Jean Depan twitched his nose and said, "It's so strange. There's a sweet fragrance. Oh, it smells like honey." Lei Xingfeng looked at Jean Depan and found it funny. This guy was indeed a foodie. He had a dog's nose. No smell could escape from him. After all, the jars were stuffed so that the smell would not leak out. Lei Xingfeng raised the crystal bottle in his hand and said, "This is purple honey. Pour some out and apply it on the wounds. Add some water and feed it to them." This method was very wasteful, but Lei Xingfeng did not know how to refine medicine, so he could only use this method to solve the emergency. Fortunately, the injured people were all cultivators. If they were ordinary people, they would have been finished when they were hit by the stinger. Even the traditional method might not be able to save them. After the purple honey was applied to the wounds, the swollen bruises quickly disappeared and the moaning stopped. After everyone drank a bowl of purple honey water, the strong cultivators were able to stand up. As for the small wounds caused by the stinger, they were not worth mentioning at all. They were mainly caused by the stinger's poison. Once the poison was removed, the injuries would be healed. Everyone bowed to Lei Xingfeng to express their gratitude. Lei Xingfeng waved his hand and turned to leave the mirror world. There was still half a bottle of purple honey left in Jean Dupan's hand. He secretly licked his fingers and tasted the purple honey. Suddenly, he became enraptured and carefully put away the half bottle of purple honey. This was good stuff. Lei Xingfeng reappeared next to the beehive and saw a row of jars on the ground filled with purple honey and a large piece of the beehive. This was also a treasure. Not only could it be used to make medicine, but it could also be eaten raw. It was definitely a great tonic, not inferior to ordinary spiritual herbs. Jing Zia said, I only collected a little. In the future, I can arrange a puppet beast to harvest it. Don't collect too much at one time. It can be harvested over the years. Then she restored the shell of the beehive and said, You can put it in the mirror world. It's better to dig a big hole in advance. In addition, find a withered tree and plant it. The Inkstain's purple bees will dig a passage. She recruited another group of people to continue digging the fruit trees. She also opened up an orchard in the mirror world. She designed it according to the original design. She stacked blue stones into a lattice and then transplanted the fruit trees into it. After 4 days, she finally transplanted all the fruit trees into the mirror world. In this way, Lei Xingfeng had his first orchard and a purple bee's beehive. It wouldn't be long before he could mass-produce purple honey and purple bee's beehive. In the end, the management of this big orchard was taken away by Jean Dupan. This guy shamelessly asked for it back and swore that he would manage it well. During this time, neither Wu Yang nor Gucci returned to the mirror world. Presumably, they didn't encounter any danger. After a few days of delay, Lei Xingfeng and Jing Zia prepared to go deeper into the forbidden area. Looking back at the damaged orchard, Lei Xingfeng said with a smile, I guess any true monarch or heavenly monarch who comes here will want to take this orchard away. Unfortunately, they don't have the mirror world. Haha, this is a good deal for me. He was very proud. A secret sect's base might not be self-sufficient, but as a member of the secret sect, he had to have this awareness. Even if he couldn't be self-sufficient now, he had to work hard in this direction. Jing Zia said with disdain, You are stealing. Lei Xingfeng said with a smile, You are an accomplice. Jing Zia was speechless. She was an accomplice. She had the power to do all this. Sometimes, teasing Jing Zia was one of Lei Xingfeng's joys. This intelligent puppet often made Lei Xingfeng forget the fact that she was a puppet. He couldn't help but see her as a human. Since Jing Zia had been following Lei Xingfeng, he didn't see her as a puppet. Instead, he saw her as a partner. The two chatted and laughed as they walked into the forest. This time, the two steel puppets were still leading the way. After walking for about half a day, the steel humanoid beast encountered the second restriction. Whether it was the first restriction or the second restriction, they were both large-scale restrictions. They were mainly used to prevent large star beasts from entering. Therefore, the restriction was very effective against large star beasts. It was also because of this that the restriction was very effective against large star beasts. It was much less effective against humans. Even so, without a certain level of strength, it was impossible to break through. It was the first time that Lei Xingfeng had encountered a large-scale restriction, so he also wanted to study it. The steel puppets stopped on one side. They were blocked by the restriction and couldn't move forward, so they retreated. Lei Xingfeng began to walk into the range of the restriction. He felt that the restriction was like sticky glue. As he went deeper, the sticky glue turned into thick sand after a dozen meters. After walking for another 5 or 6 meters, Lei Xingfeng felt as if he had bumped into a concrete steel bar. Lei Xingfeng's whole body flashed with lightning and thunder. He forced his way forward. After taking 2 more steps, Lei Xingfeng felt as if the air had turned into steel. He was amazed. There was nothing in front of him, but he could feel it so clearly. This restriction was too powerful. The repulsive force was so strong that if he didn't move forward with all his strength, he would be pushed out. Jing Zia, who was standing not far away, said, It's useless for you to walk like this. Your strength can never be stronger than the restriction. You have to launch an attack. Lei Xingfeng suddenly remembered the red afterglow sword seal that he had found last time. As this thing was being nurtured in Lei Yin's body, he felt that he could test it with the sword seal and see how strong its attack power was. Lightning flashed, and a dot of red light rose from Lei Xingfeng's head. In an instant, an enormous aura spread out. Jing Zia kept retreating. She said, "The stronger the attack, the better. You have to be decisive and fast in your attack." She reminded him, and then took a few more steps back. Lei Xingfeng said, "Understood." Lei Xingfeng drove the red afterglow sword seal with all his strength. The red light became brighter and brighter, mixed with traces of lightning. A virtual image stood upright. He felt that the red afterglow sword seal was like an incomparably heavy mountain, pressing down on him until he couldn't breathe. A large amount of lightning power poured into the red afterglow sword seal. He felt a little regretful. After all, this sword seal wasn't of the lightning attribute. It was quite strenuous to operate and didn't feel very smooth. Chapter 450. The illusory figure gradually materialized, and a flame illusory figure kept jumping around with countless lightning arcs. Lei Xingfeng's face was already flushed red. Due to his reverence for the restriction, he had used all his strength from the beginning. This was the first time he had used so much strength. Lei Xingfeng himself might not have felt it, but Jing Zia did. She immediately commanded the steel puppet to retreat quickly. That huge force gave her an extremely dangerous feeling. Even though she was a puppet, she still couldn't stand it. Lei Xingfeng's momentum had been accumulated to the extreme, and he released it without holding back. Boom! The sword seal slashed out. In an instant, countless flames jumped and lightning flashed. The whole air seemed to be burning. The scarlet afterglow sword seal slashed down, and the sound was really earth-shattering. Even Lei Xingfeng felt his ears buzzing. He was secretly surprised. Ever since he started cultivating, it could be said that this was the most powerful attack he had ever made. In the past, even when he used Lei Yin, he didn't have such great power. He heard Jing Zia shout, "Continuous slash." In an instant, Lei Xingfeng understood that this attack alone was not enough to break the restriction. He had to attack continuously. After this attack, although Lei Xingfeng felt dizzy, the pressure on his body suddenly disappeared. He knew that the effect of this attack was very obvious. He quickly ran forward. After about 7 or 8 steps, the surroundings began to feel sticky again. Then, he slashed out the sword seal again. Although this attack was not as terrifying as the previous one, it succeeded in reducing the pressure around him. He quickly walked a few steps and slashed out again. Continuously walking and slashing, Lei Xingfeng quickly went deep into the restriction. Relying on the scarlet afterglow sword seal, Lei Xingfeng forcibly opened a path and walked through the restriction. Fortunately, this restriction didn't have the power to counterattack. It was purely a blocking restriction. Once one's attack power surpassed it, one could pass through smoothly. However, if one did not have the strength of a heaven monarch, it would be almost impossible to pass through this restriction. Even if one had the strength of a heaven monarch, one would not be able to pass through without a powerful attack. This was also the formidable part of the Forbidden Land. Out of 100 people who could enter the second restriction, perhaps 80 would be eliminated. Only a small number of people could enter. In a moment, Lei Xingfeng passed through the second restriction. He silently calculated that the width of this restriction was more than 200 meters. It was incredible. Through the restriction, Lei Xingfeng could clearly see Jing Zia and the steel puppet. However, they couldn't come over. Only by using the mirror realm could he bring them in. He returned to the mirror realm and reappeared by Jing Zia's side. He took her and the steel puppet beast through the mirror realm and passed through the restriction formation. Jing Zia said, "The second restriction formation is just like this. The deeper we go, the stronger the restriction formation becomes." Lei Xingfeng was puzzled. Why? If there are powerful restrictions in the second restriction, then we can't enter, right? Jing Zia gave him a disdainful look and said, "The bigger the restriction, the wider the range, and the more energy it consumes. Of course, it can't be that powerful. When you enter the inner circle, the range of the restriction is relatively small. The changes inside are enough to block you. Even if you can't block it, I guess you can't withstand its powerful killing moves." Lei Xingfeng shook his head. In fact, he didn't have the slightest intention to force his way through. Once he encountered an obstacle that he couldn't pass, he would definitely turn around and leave. In any case, there was the Grand Master and his master here. They were more familiar with this place than he was. If he found something valuable and couldn't break through, then he would discuss it with the Grand Master. After the second restriction, there was a vast land. At a glance, there were lofty mountains and precipitous ridges, surging rivers, and patches of green grassland. Between the grassland were strips of forest with a large number of herbivores. Lei Xingfeng sighed with emotion. This is like a new world. The only thing that contrasted with this natural landscape was the tall towers. Most of them had been destroyed, and only a few of them were intact. On the distant mountain peak, one could clearly see the towering towers reaching into the clouds. Lei Xingfeng stared at the towers. After a long while, he said, "There must be something good in this tower." Jingzia said coldly, "Stop dreaming. That tower must be the center of the entire forbidden area. It's impossible to enter. I reckon that there must be an extremely powerful restriction around the tower." Lei Xingfeng carefully looked at the tower again. He admitted, "Okay, what you said makes sense." He could clearly see an extremely faint light. If he didn't pay attention to the sky, he wouldn't have noticed the changes within. He tried to condense the power of thunder and lightning into his eyes. Suddenly, everything around him changed. This was something he had never tried before. His eyes were slightly stinging. All kinds of colors and lights were flickering. For a moment, Lei Xingfeng couldn't distinguish the differences. However, he knew that his eyes seemed to have undergone a huge change. On the other hand, Jingzia looked at Lei Xingfeng in surprise. She could clearly see two silver lights flickering in and out of Lei Xingfeng's eyes. In the blink of an eye, they had unexpectedly become more than a foot long. Lei Xingfeng's pupils had completely turned silver white, which looked very scary. Lei Xingfeng only felt that his eyes were getting more and more painful. He hurriedly dispersed the power of thunder and lightning and closed his eyes. After waiting for more than 10 minutes, he finally felt better. Jingzia said, "Are you crying?" Lei Xingfeng said, "Why would I cry? I was just provoked." His face was slightly red. He had made a fool of himself. The power of thunder and lightning had made his eyes uncontrollably tear up. However, he was ecstatic in his heart. He knew that his eyes should be more powerful. They just needed to be developed. He believed that he had to work hard to develop the special functions of his eyes. Wiping away his tears, Lei Xingfeng said with a smile, "I guess it won't stop for a while, but it won't affect my actions. Let's go." It seems that the tower is the real core of the forbidden area. Jingzia said, "That's for sure. The tower is definitely the core area." "If you're lucky," Lei Xingfeng said. "What do you think? If I'm lucky, what will happen?" Jingzia said, "If you're lucky, you can enter the core area and possibly find the secret chamber space that leads to the forbidden area." Lei Xingfeng said in surprise, "Is there a secret chamber space here?" Jingzia said, "There may be a big forbidden area, but there are very few small and medium-sized forbidden areas. Unless the big forbidden area has declined, it's impossible to get such a large space." Xian Feng thought about it carefully and understood. The continent where the secret door was located had probably completely declined, falling under the control of the secret door. With the strength of the secret door, it couldn't even compare to the small forbidden lands here, not to mention the large forbidden lands. The secret hidden space couldn't be taken away. It was different from the mirror world. Once the owner of the secret hidden space moved, the secret hidden space would be abandoned, no matter how precious it was. Lei Xingfeng suddenly became excited. He said, "I've always been lucky." Jingzia said, "It's not luck anymore, but strength." Lei Xingfeng said disapprovingly, "Luck is also a kind of strength." Jing Zia rolled her eyes. Fortunately, she was a puppet, not a person. Otherwise, she would have been angered to death by Lei Xingfeng. She said, "You're always right." Then she ignored him. Lei Xingfeng chuckled and said no more. The steel puppet led the way, and the two of them followed closely behind. After entering the second restriction, the terrain of the whole forbidden area was depressed like a huge pot. In the middle was a huge mountain range, and the giant tower was at the highest peak. Therefore, Lei Xingfeng could clearly see the changes in the terrain of the whole forbidden area. Especially behind the forest in the depression, he could vaguely see towers scattered everywhere. If he looked carefully, he would find that a few of them were intact. Lei Xingfeng knew that these were offensive towers. Once they were activated, if he didn't have the token of the forbidden area, he would probably die. However, this place had been abandoned. Without a master, these towers would not take the initiative to attack. Of course, it was a different story if you triggered the restriction. For example, if you dare to fly, you would die. After walking for about half an hour, Jing Zia couldn't help but say, "There should be all kinds of restrictions below. It's the most dangerous place. What are you going to do? Break in by force?" Lei Xingfeng said, "Wait until I find a high ground or a big ancient tree. Let me take a look." Originally, he didn't have the slightest confidence. However, after pouring the power of thunder into his eyes, he had a new idea. The majority of restrictions were invisible and colorless. If you didn't touch them, you wouldn't be able to see them. But now, Lei Xingfeng felt that he should be able to see them. Just think of it as crying again. Lei Xingfeng quickly found a huge ancient tree. There were many ancient trees here. This was a huge tree that was nearly 100 meters tall. Lei Xingfeng said, "I'll go up and take a look." Seeing Lei Xingfeng climb up, Jing Zia hesitated for a moment before following him. Soon, Lei Xingfeng climbed to the top of the tree. Jing Zia followed him closely. Lei Xingfeng said, "What are you doing up here? Can't you wait down here?" Jing Zia said, "I have the ability to make maps." "Do you?" Lei Xingfeng was deflated. He said with a smile, Okay, you can make the map." Jing Zia snorted twice. She naturally wouldn't continue to be sarcastic. She began to carefully observe the surroundings. After a moment, Jing Zia turned around and saw Lei Xingfeng's face covered in tears. His eyes were flickering with silver light. Tears flowed down his face. She said, "You're crying again?" Lei Xingfeng didn't pay attention to her. He was completely immersed in joy. Although tears flowed down his face, he was overjoyed by the great harvest. This was because he could see the invisible restrictive spells. The whole forbidden area was surrounded by many layers of large and small circles. He didn't know how many restrictive spells there were. The light emitted by each restrictive spell was different. Although the light was very faint, he could clearly distinguish them. What surprised him the most was that he could see the weak points of the restrictive spells. Where the restrictive spells were strong, the light was slightly stronger. Where the restrictive spells were weak, the light was almost invisible. He could feel it. Therefore, he understood that there were no secrets in this forbidden area in his eyes. Withdrawing the power of thunder and lightning from his eyes, Lei Xingfeng wiped the tears on his face and said, "What's the big deal about crying? Don't make a fuss about nothing." Jing Zia rarely smiled. This time, she couldn't help but smile. For her, this was an extremely difficult thing. Lei Xingfeng immediately made a fuss about nothing. He said, "Hey, you're smiling." Chapter 451. Jing Zia said lightly, "You can cry, but I can't laugh." In fact, she used to pull up the corners of her mouth and smile, but that wasn't her real smile. She just wanted to show that she was open to him. But now, she was smiling from the bottom of her heart. Lei Xingfeng wiped his tears again and nodded. "Well, I can cry, and you can laugh. Damn it, I'm not really crying. It's so depressing." Jing Zia asked, "What did you see?" Lei Xingfeng said, "I saw the restrictions of the whole forbidden area clearly." What do you think? Amazing, right?" Jing Zia asked curiously, "How is that possible?" In her knowledge, restrictions couldn't be seen, of course. There were high-level practitioners who had the means to detect them. However, Xian Feng wasn't a high-level practitioner in her eyes, yet he had this kind of ability, causing her to be extremely shocked. Lei Xingfeng said, "Do you think my tears were in vain?" Jing Zia asked, "Is there a way to the core area?" Lei Xingfeng said, "Don't worry. Let's wait until my eyes feel better, and then we'll continue to look for a way in." A smile suddenly appeared on Jing Zia's face as she said, "So, you want to cry again?" Lei Xingfeng was speechless. He didn't want to cry again. The power of thunder and lightning was very stimulating, and his weak eyes were quite uncomfortable. Fortunately, he was very familiar with the property of thunder. Otherwise, not only would he cry, but he might also bleed. If he cried, he would know that he had entered the core area of the forbidden area. Therefore, Lei Xingfeng was willing to cry, not to mention that he wasn't crying because he was sad. After a short rest, Lei Xingfeng sent the power of thunder and lightning into his eyes again. This time, he focused on finding a way to avoid all the restrictions, which was not easy to find. After finally finding a possible way, Lei Xingfeng's eyes couldn't stand it anymore. His tears were like a flood, and his eyes hurt. He closed his eyes, removed the power of thunder and lightning, and said, "This is not a task that can be finished in a day or two. Let's go back and have a rest first." The two of them went down the tree and disappeared, returning to the mirror world. The two of them appeared in Lei Xingfeng's courtyard. There were still a few people sitting in the wooden shed in the courtyard. When Jean Depang saw Lei Xingfeng enter, he hurriedly ran over and said, "Afeng, are you hungry?" Afeng, what happened to your eyes?" Lei Xingfeng's eyes were red and swollen, which looked very scary. Jing Zia said coldly, "He cried." Jean Depang was dumbfounded. Ah. Lei Xingfeng said angrily, "On my ass. Shut up, don't talk nonsense." Jing Zia took a step back and stopped talking. Jean Depang rubbed his eyes. He couldn't figure out why Lei Xingfeng would cry. It was too king ridiculous. Lei Xingfeng said, "I'm going to take a nap. Don't look for me if there's nothing important." Then he quickly walked back to his room and fell asleep. Jing Zia shook her head and went back to her room to wait. After sleeping for 2 whole days, Lei Xingfeng's eyes had completely recovered. His eyes could now naturally integrate a little power of thunder and lightning. When he walked out of his room, everyone who saw him was surprised because his eyes were constantly emitting a silver light, which looked very strange. Lei Xingfeng walked out of his room and saw Gao Yi and Thunderstorm sitting in the wooden shed. In front of them was a big table full of dishes. A strong smell of food drifted over, and Lei Xingfeng's stomach suddenly growled. He was hungry. Lei Xingfeng walked to the wooden shed and sat down. "Ah Yi, you haven't gone yet? Uncle Gao, when did you come back? Did you get anything?" Gao Yi said, "I was stuck inside, so I came back to rest. It's not good to be too nervous." Thunderstorm said, "I'm not in a hurry. I still need to consolidate. Although cultivation is fast in the Magnetic Storm Mountains, and there is plenty of thunder and lightning, I can't calm down. It's too irritable." Lei Xingfeng picked up his chopsticks and started eating. With his current cultivation, he could go without eating for a long time, but once he started eating, it was endless. Jean Depang came in with a plate of food. When he saw Lei Xingfeng, he couldn't help but be happy. "Afeng, you've rested well. That's great. I'll go prepare some main dishes." Lei Xingfeng found that Jean Depang's cooking skills had improved again. The food tasted very good. This was a rare chance for him to eat, so it was definitely something to enjoy. He didn't have time to chat and just ate crazily. Jean Depang quickly came in with several main dishes. Lei Xingfeng also took out his precious fishman wine. With the consumption, the fishman wine became more and more precious. After eating and drinking, Lei Xingfeng rubbed his belly with satisfaction. "Uncle Gao, where are we stuck?" Gao Yi said, "Damn, we entered a room. When we went in, there was a door, but when we came out, there was no door. No matter how we attacked, it was useless. We had to go back to the mirror realm first. If it wasn't for the mirror realm, we might have been trapped. I'm an ice elemental. Not only will my attacks not break the room, but they will also increase the thickness of the walls. What the hell? Thunderstorm laughed. That's the ice palace you were talking about. It's so abnormal. Gao Yi said, if there's a cultivator of another element, they might be able to open the seal. Old man, are you interested in going with us? Thunderstorm said, the biggest counter to the ice element is the fire element. I don't think I'll be of much help, but since you've invited me, I don't mind going. Gao Yi was very happy. It's good to have more experts. Looking for someone to help. Before he could finish, Gucci appeared in the courtyard. He saw the people in the wooden hut as soon as he appeared. He couldn't help but be overjoyed. Good, they're all here. Quick, follow me. Lei Xingfeng stood up. What's wrong? Gucci said, your ancestor is fighting with someone. The opponent is a Dao Lord. Everyone was shocked. Wu Yang actually dared to fight with a Dao Lord. This was too terrifying. Lei Xingfeng said, let's go together. Gao Yi and Thunderstorm agreed, and quickly walked out of the wooden hut. In an instant, the four disappeared from the courtyard. Wu Yang didn't know that Gucci had gone back to report. He met the two people he saw before. One was a Dao Lord, and the other was a beginner Heaven Monarch. This Dao Lord had just advanced and hadn't completely consolidated his realm. He couldn't wait to come to the great forbidden land to explore. It was inevitable that he met Wu Yang. Both of them knew a shortcut. Gucci knew because he had heard of this shortcut before. In the end, he was a little slower than Wu Yang. He saw Wu Yang fighting with someone from afar. He was very smart and knew that he wouldn't be of much help. The opponent was a Dao Lord and a Heaven Monarch. The Heaven Monarch didn't make a move. It was the Dao Lord who was suppressing Wu Yang. Therefore, he immediately returned to the Mirror Realm to ask for help. However, Gucci didn't expect that Thunderstorm, Gao Yi, and Lei Xingfeng were all present. He immediately heaved a sigh of relief. With Wu Yang, 4 Heaven Monarchs, and a peak stage Heaven Monarch, they could definitely deal with them. Even if they couldn't win, they wouldn't be too embarrassed. After all, there were a lot of scruples when fighting in the Great Forbidden Land. This was the first time he had been in such a sorry state. Although the other party had just become a Dao Lord, his strength still firmly suppressed him. Just thinking about it made him angry. This guy actually forced him to break through the restriction. This place was close to the core area. If the restriction was easy to break through, it would be riddled with holes. Why would it wait for him to break through? He had no choice but to fight with the opponent. Fortunately, the opponent didn't dare to use his ultimate move recklessly. Although Wu Yang was fighting with great difficulty, he could still manage. After all, he was also a peak stage Heaven Monarch. Wu Yang wanted to use the Mirror Realm to escape a few times, but the opponent gave him too much pressure. He wasn't confident that he could escape unscathed. Just as Wu Yang was cursing crazily in his heart, Lei Xingfeng and the others appeared 1,000 meters away. Because Wu Yang and the Dao Lord weren't fighting fiercely, the surrounding restrictions weren't alarmed. However, the rumbling sounds had already spread out. Lei Xingfeng just came out and heard a series of explosions. When he heard the sounds, his heart was slightly relieved. This meant that Wu Yang was still fighting. The 4 of them revealed themselves. Thunderstorm asked, how is it? Lei Xingfeng said they are still fighting. Gao Yi calmly observed and said, it's very difficult. We have to go over quickly. Gucci said softly, let's go. We will think of a sneak attack. Even though it was only 1,000 meters away, Lei Xingfeng could clearly see that there were 2 restrictions blocking the way. He took a few steps and said, I will lead the way. You guys follow me. Gucci ran and said, you don't know the way. Lei Xingfeng said, I do. It didn't matter if it was the way or not. As long as they could avoid the restrictions, it didn't matter which way they went. The 3 of them followed Lei Xingfeng. Gucci was actually more familiar with the way. He followed behind and realized that Lei Xingfeng was even more familiar with the way than he was. After many twists and turns, they quickly approached the battlefield. He couldn't help but be amazed. He couldn't understand why Lei Xingfeng was so familiar with this place. After passing through a forest, the 4 of them arrived at the edge of the battleground. They were about 200 meters away from the battleground. The trees near the battleground were all shattered by the aftermath of the battle, and the area where the 4 of them arrived at the treetops were all shattered, so they were surrounded by branches and leaves, which concealed their tracks very well. The heaven monarch that Tao Lord brought along was standing about 50 meters away from them. He looked at them with a smile and a leisurely look. Lei Xingfeng was very angry when he saw this. He whispered, "Get rid of this guy first." This person was a primary stage heaven monarch. Even if he was just a primary stage heaven monarch, once the four of them attacked Tao Lord together, he would be a great threat. Therefore, it was inevitable that they would attack the weaker one first. If they attacked Tao Lord, they might not be able to do anything to him in a short time. However, it was completely different if they attacked a primary stage heaven monarch. There were 4 heaven monarchs here. Once they attacked with all their strength and that heaven monarch wasn't prepared, the result was obvious. Gao Yi whispered, "Use the most powerful method and don't give him any leeway to interfere." That standing heaven monarch was really unlucky. He was watching his own patriarch brutally beating up Wu Yang with great interest. He didn't expect that the revenge would fall on him. He faintly heard someone's voice, and he even understood it. He was still puzzled. Who was talking? What 1, 2, 3? 1, 2, 3. It was Thunderstorm who said, which meant that they would attack after 1, 2, 3. Therefore, even if that heaven monarch heard 1, 2, 3, he didn't react. When he turned around, he was so frightened that he let out a strange cry. His body suddenly surged with defense. The thunder fire that covered the sky and the earth struck over with extreme cold icicles, pouring over like a torrential storm. Chapter 452. In an instant, that heaven monarch was knocked to the ground. What a joke. Even a Tao monarch would not be able to withstand the sneak attack of 4 heaven monarchs. This attack immediately caused him to be seriously injured. After the attack, the 4 of them rushed out. In fact, this was the best outcome. They did not dare to kill this heaven monarch. It was too scary to provoke a Tao monarch. Therefore, the only purpose of the 4 of them was not to attack the Tao monarch, but to capture him. Wu Yang reacted quickly. His seal swelled as he launched the craziest attack. The Tao monarch's figure flashed as he directly pounced on the heaven monarch on the ground. Lei Xingfeng and the others joined forces to launch another attack and successfully repelled the Tao monarch. This guy was indeed extremely strong. He had to withstand the attacks of 4 heaven monarchs and a peak heaven monarch. Although he was in a sorry state and could not save the heaven monarch, these attacks did not hurt him. An electric net fell. The heaven monarch, who was already injured, immediately trembled. Lei Xingfeng rushed forward to help. Gucci went forward to help, and the master and disciple tied the heaven monarch up. After the Tao monarch was repelled, he stood motionless. He was not stupid. He knew that Wu Yang's side had come to help. After observing for a while, he was slightly relieved. The other party did not have a Tao monarch. Although they had the advantage in numbers, and there were 4 more heaven monarchs, he was still confident that he could escape unscathed. The only thing that gave him a headache was that one of his own had been captured. Wu Yang's figure flashed slightly as he arrived in front of the 4. He smiled. This support was too powerful. They had arrived just when he was about to collapse. This made him heave a huge sigh of relief, especially since they had captured one of the heaven monarchs. This meant that there were conditions for negotiation. Even if there were 4 more heaven monarchs, he was not confident that he could defeat a Tao monarch. Both sides were in a deadlock. Lei Xingfeng asked softly, "Who is he?" Wu Yang said, "I don't know him." Lei Xingfeng finally had the chance to observe this Tao Lord carefully. Even though Lei Xingfeng had reached the level of a beginner heaven lord, he still felt a little breathless. This kind of power could only be possessed by a Tao lord. This person looked to be in his 40s or 50s. His face was ruddy, and his 2 slanted eyebrows revealed a sense of decadence and sadness. He stared at the crowd for a long time and actually smiled. He said, very good, very good. I was actually played by a group of juniors." He. Wu Yang said, "Senior, you don't have to go too far." The Tao Lord said, "If I want to push you too far, you would already be dead. Do you believe me?" Wu Yang said, "I believe you, and I believe even more that your goal is to send me to my death." It's only a matter of time before you die. The Tao monarch had forced him to scout the way. In a place like this where restrictions were densely packed, it was no different from seeking death. The Tao Lord said, "Let go of my people." Lei Xingfeng couldn't help but say, "Is this guy an idiot?" His voice was very low, but the Tao Lord's ears were very good. He heard it clearly. The Tao Lord's face darkened. He said, "Kid, are you going against me?" Lei Xingfeng said, "I don't even know you. What do you mean by going against you? Idiot." He couldn't help but curse. This bastard was bullying his ancestor. He had long regarded Wu Yang as his family. Of course, he was extremely unhappy to be bullied by him. Anyway, he had the mirror realm to escape. He wasn't afraid of this guy. The Tao Lord said in a low voice, "Kid, you're courting death." Wu Yang was more experienced. He said, "Stop talking nonsense. How should we settle this?" The Tao Lord said, "Let go of my people. We'll go our separate ways. We'll go wherever we meet." Thunderstorm was unwilling. He said indifferently, "We should be the ones to raise the conditions. Your people are in our hands." Gao Yi kept staring at the person. After a while, he suddenly said, "You're Yashina?" The Tao Lord looked at Gao Yi in surprise. He rubbed his eyes and said, Gao Yi?" Lei Xingfeng said, "Uncle Gao, you know him?" Gao Yi nodded slightly and said, "I didn't expect you to be a Tao Lord." Yashina laughed and said, "You're not dead? You're really lucky." As soon as he said this, Lei Xingfeng and the others immediately understood that this person had a grudge against Gao Yi. Gao Yi said coldly, "You don't have to worry. My luck has always been good. Haven't you always been a loner? How did a subordinate come out of nowhere?" Hearing this, both Wu Yang and Gucci relaxed a little. This person wasn't from a secret sect. A loner wasn't scary. The scariest thing was that there was a secret sect behind him. It was a big force that was a headache. Yashina said coldly, "I'll say it again. Let him go, and we'll go our separate ways. If you provoke me, I'll kill you even if I have to trigger the restriction." Everyone knew that there was no benefit in this stalemate. Gao Yi said, "Step back. We'll take him to the edge of the forest. Don't worry, I'll let you see him." Yashina didn't have a better idea. He nodded and said, "Don't try to fool me. Remember, stay in my line of sight." Gao Yi grabbed the Tao Lord and said, "Let's retreat." Lei Xingfeng and the others were on high alert. They retreated together. Yashina didn't say a word. He just looked at them coldly. A few minutes later, Lei Xingfeng and the others had retreated to the edge of the forest. Gao Yi reached out and hung the Tao Lord on a tree branch. He said, "After 10 breaths, you can come forward. If you move before that, I don't mind killing him." Yashina was deflated. He gritted his teeth and said, "Okay." In his heart, he swore, "Don't let me meet you in the future." Gao Yi shouted, "Let's go." Yashina counted honestly for 10 breaths. Then, his figure flashed and appeared beside the Tao Lord. After a brief examination, he found that the Tao Lord was only unconscious and wasn't seriously injured. He was filled with hatred. He raised his hand and launched an attack. In an instant, it was as if countless explosives had been buried in the forest. What surprised Yashina was that the 5 people had disappeared without a trace. He couldn't find any trace of them. Stomping his feet, Yashina took out a water bottle and poured the iced water on the Tao Lord's face. He slapped the Tao Lord's face hard and shouted, "Do you wake up?" Duyu's hair was all standing up because of the electric shock. With the cold water and Yashina's slapping, Duyu finally woke up. He found that he was tied up. He was so angry that his eyes rolled back and he fainted again. This time, he fainted because of anger. Lei Xingfeng and the others returned to the mirror realm. They were still in shock. Although they were fierce with Yashina just now, it was because they had hostages in their hands. If they really fought, even if they didn't die, injuries would be inevitable. After all, the other party was a Tao Lord. Once one reached the level of a Tao Lord, there would be a complete qualitative change. His martial strength would become abnormally strong. To be honest, even if they had 5 Tao Lords, they might not be able to win. The best result was that both sides would be injured. The 5 of them stood in Lei Xingfeng's courtyard and looked at each other. After a while, the 5 of them burst into laughter at the same time. There was joy and bitterness in their laughter. Birdbeat stood on the roof. It wanted to fly to Lei Xingfeng's shoulder, but it didn't dare to for the time being. The aura of the people below, except for Lei Xingfeng, frightened it. Therefore, it chirped a few times on the roof and flew away in disappointment. After the land of the mirror realm was developed, it became lively. Therefore, even if it didn't go out, it wasn't very lonely. In the mirror realm, everyone knew that Birdbeard was Lei Xingfeng's pet. Therefore, no one would give it a hard time, let alone attack it. Birdbeard liked to play pranks from time to time. Of course, these were harmless pranks. Most of them were for fun. It lived a very good life. Finally, the five of them stopped laughing. After a while, Wu Yang said, "I've been waiting for the cultivation method of the forbidden area. That's why I hesitated and didn't advance. Now it seems that I've made a mistake. Without a Tao Lord at home, it's really easy to be bullied." Gao Yi said, "Yashina should have gotten the cultivation method of the forbidden area. In the past, he was about the same level as me. If he didn't play tricks, I wouldn't have been afraid of him. Now, after this exploration of the forbidden area, a foam, come with me to the Ice Palace. I don't believe that we can't find a suitable cultivation method." Thunderstorm also said, "Yes, after this forbidden area, I'll go to the magnetic storm mountains too. We have to find a way to go to the back mountain." They were all greatly stimulated by Yashina. They hoped that they could increase their strength and advance to Tao Lord as soon as possible. Lei Xingfeng also had a strong desire to advance. He was also stimulated. Yashina's powerful aura was enough to bind him. When he talked to Yashina, he felt extremely uncomfortable. Although he wasn't afraid of him, Yashina's strength made him feel very uncomfortable. Wu Yang said, "We don't know how long we can stay in the outer realm, but I know that this place is not a place to stay for long. We will definitely leave. But before we leave, we have to build a good foundation and increase our strength. Otherwise, even if we have the mirror world, it will be more and more difficult." Lei Xingfeng asked curiously, "We will leave this place?" Wu Yang said, "Of course. This is definitely not a good place to develop. Why did the people of the forbidden area leave? So, this is just a temporary place for us to stay. Once we find a passage to leave, we will definitely follow." Lei Xingfeng said, "Let's go back to the path I took. Ancestor, your path, let Yashina take it. We can't beat him." Wu Yang said resentfully, "That's the path I'm most familiar with. After combining the information of many people and my own exploration, it's the path closest to the tower. I don't have the confidence to take the other paths. The seals there are too dense. If we're not careful, we'll run into them. Many people have suffered greatly." Lei Xingfeng said, "Don't worry. I'll find a way out." Wu Yang wanted to refute, but when he thought of Lei Xingfeng's miraculous luck, he changed his words. "All right, I hope your luck is good." Lei Xingfeng thought to himself, "This isn't my luck. My eyes are good. I can see the seals. Of course, it's easy for me to avoid them. If I couldn't see and wandered around like you guys, I wouldn't even be able to walk easily in the core area, let alone the core area." Gao Yi said, "I believe in a foam." Gucci said, "I believe in him too. He can even get a treasure like the mirror world. What can't he get?" Chapter 453. Thunderstorm smiled proudly. Although he didn't say anything, his attitude was clear. He supported his grandson. Wu Yang said, "Do you want to rest for a while? Or do you want to go now?" Lei Xingfeng said, "Don't rest. That Yashina is so strong. He might be ahead of us. Even if we can't beat him this time, we have to be ahead of them." He thought to himself that it would be best to take all the benefits so that they wouldn't get anything. That would be the best way to vent his anger. Wu Yang said, "Okay, let's go." This time, Lei Xingfeng led the team and brought the others to the ancient tree. Wu Yang looked around and said, "The distance here is a bit far." He was quite familiar with this forbidden area. Of course, he knew that they hadn't entered the dense restriction circle yet. They needed to find a new path to enter. Lei Xingfeng said, "I know. Wait for me." He climbed up the tree again. Once again, he channeled the power of lightning into his eyes. This time, the stimulation was much less, and his eyes were gradually adapting. Of course, tears were unavoidable. Soon, he came down from the tree. As he wiped his tears, he said, "I've found the way. Follow me." Everyone stared at Lei Xingfeng. Thunderstorm asked with concern, "A phone, what's wrong?" Gao Yi said, "Why are you crying?" Gucci also said, "Why are you crying so much? What's going on?" Lei Xingfeng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He had no choice. He wanted to see the way clearly. It was impossible not to cry. He said, "Nothing, nothing. The sand got in my eyes." No one believed him. What a joke. How could a heavenly monarch let sand get into his eyes? However, no one continued to ask. Wu Yong said, "Okay, a phone will lead the way. We'll follow." Lei Xingfeng finally wiped his tears. One had to know that last time his tears were flowing and couldn't be wiped clean. This time, he had made great progress. He said, "Follow me." Everyone trusted him and followed him without hesitation. Lei Xingfeng said as he walked, "Don't walk side by side. Follow closely behind one another. Watch my movements." He could clearly see the light of the restrictions. No matter if it was a strong light or a dim light, there were layers upon layers. Sometimes, a large restriction would encase a small restriction. It was very difficult to find a suitable path, even if he could see it. Sometimes, there would be an extremely narrow path between two restrictions. If he stretched his arms, he would be able to touch the two restrictions. As a result, Lei Xingfeng's actions became weirder and weirder, and he even asked everyone to do the same. Lei Xingfeng turned his body sideways, as if there were cliffs on both sides. Slowly moving his feet, he said, "There are restrictions on both sides. Follow me. Do not touch any restrictions." In fact, both sides were empty. There was nothing at all, and no one could see the restriction. Wu Yong said in surprise, You can see the restriction?" Lei Xingfeng said matter-of-factly, "Yes. Otherwise, why would I cry?" Gao Yi said, If you can see the seal by crying, then I'll also cry." He very straightforwardly patted his eyes, and the tears immediately flowed out. He opened his tearful eyes and looked around. He said, "Ah Feng, you're lying." Lei Xingfeng was speechless. How could it be like this? He said, "Even if you cry yourself to death, it's useless. This is just my method." Gao Yi was instantly annoyed. He had acted too quickly. He said, "AI, you should have said so earlier." Wu Yong, Gucci, and Thunderstorm couldn't help but laugh. This guy was a bit like an old urchin. Very quickly, the group walked through more than half of the path without any surprises or dangers. Wu Yong was shocked. He knew how difficult it was to walk through the core area of the forbidden area. Their current position had already exceeded the original path. Some restrictions could be passed from side to side, while others couldn't. This path was to find the path with the least restrictions. Lei Xingfeng had calculated that there were at most 3 restrictions blocking the path. They had to break through them, and they couldn't be avoided no matter what. They quickly walked to the side of one of the restrictions. Lei Xingfeng once again channeled the power of lightning into his eyes. This time he was very fast. He couldn't be slower. If he was slow, he would be crying. The reason he had to use his eyes was to find the weak point of this restriction. Restriction circles were also divided into strong and weak ones. For the same restriction, a Dao monarch might find it difficult to break through the strong part, but a Dao monarch could pass through the weak part. This was the power of Lei Xingfeng's eyes. Others had to test it, but he could understand it just by looking. After finding a relatively weak point, Lei Xingfeng said, "Attack from this point." Wu Yong was a bit curious. "There's a restriction here?" Before coming into contact, no one knew what was in front of them. The restriction couldn't be seen. Gao Yi said, "I'll do it." Lei Xingfeng immediately pulled his master back. He knew how abnormal Gao Yi was. The attack power of his ice element was quite strong, and it could affect the surrounding environment. In an instant, the surrounding ice particles rustled and fell. With a loud bang, Gao Yi said excitedly, "It really is a restriction." In an instant, the restriction seemed to have solidified. With Gao Ye's attack, the restriction shattered like glass. Gao Yi shouted, "Go in." He had already dashed out. No one had thought that it would be so easy. They all rushed in, and in a dozen breaths of time, the entire restriction returned to its original state. Wu Yong almost immediately understood. Lei Xingfeng had chosen a very particular location to attack. It must have been the weakest point of the restriction. He couldn't help but secretly praise it. It had to be known that when they probed the weakest point of a restriction, they often had to explore it bit by bit. If they were careless, they could probe into another restriction. And once two restrictions exploded, it would be extremely difficult for them. If it was a restriction with the ability to counterattack, it could even endanger their lives. Wu Yong couldn't help but loudly exclaim, "Amazing!" Gao Yi said, "It really is amazing. This location was chosen too well. It pierced through with a single attack. I reckon the restriction won't be able to react." This point wasn't easy to find. He hadn't even used his full strength just now. It was just a probing attack, but it had actually passed through so easily. It could be imagined just how suitable the location was. After piercing through this restriction, Lei Xingfeng's group of 5 entered a restriction circle. Every restriction circle had something fixed to protect. It could be a residence, a plantation, or something else important. So being able to enter a restriction circle meant that they could search for something valuable. Lei Xingfeng's goal was to reach the true core area as soon as possible. And this place was already very close to the core area. This restriction circle had blocked the path, so he had found a weak point and charged in with a single attack. As for what this restriction circle was protecting, he didn't know. Wu Yong naturally understood the value of this place. No matter who it was, being able to enter such a restriction circle meant that they would definitely gain something. When Lei Xingfeng was about to pass through this restriction circle, Wu Yong immediately stopped him and said, "Don't be in a hurry. We haven't searched this restriction circle yet. Let's see if there are any good things inside." No matter who entered this restriction circle, they wouldn't let it go. This restriction circle was very big and took up at least a few thousand mu. With such complicated restrictions in this forbidden ground, those who could reach this place were definitely the minority. They had to be at least a peak stage heaven monarch or above. It was normal for ordinary Dao monarchs to enter. Lei Xingfeng benefited from being able to see restrictions. This allowed him to reach this place so easily in this restriction circle. Gucci said, "I don't know what is inside this restriction circle. I'll go look for it." The 5 of them split up and searched on their own. 1,000 mu of land didn't seem big, but it would take a lot of time to run around it, especially when there were many trees and small ponds here. They couldn't see the end of it. Lei Xingfeng searched in one direction by himself. He casually summoned Jing Zia. Every time he was alone, he hoped to bring Jing Zia along. It wasn't just because there was someone to talk to. Most importantly, Jing Zia was an intelligent puppet. She had her own understanding of the Forbidden Grounds and the Great Forbidden Grounds. When he encountered some problems, there would be someone to discuss it with. Jing Zia didn't say much and silently stood beside him. Lei Xingfeng said, "This is a restriction circle. We are already close to the core area." Jing Zia asked, "What is inside?" Lei Xingfeng shook his head and said, "We just came in and don't know what this restriction circle is. We need to explore it." Jing Zia said, "Then let's go forward. Don't worry, you don't have to be careful. Restriction circles generally don't have any dangers. There won't be any restrictions on the road unless it is a specific place. Don't worry and go forward boldly. Don't go to the edge of the restriction circle. Go to the center. If there is anything, it must be in the center." Lei Xingfeng walked to the center area of the restriction circle without hesitation. He originally planned to search around the restriction circle and then enter the center area. After hearing Jing Zia's words, he directly walked to the center area. The 2 of them were very fast. It only took them half an hour to reach the center area. It was a ruin. A large number of buildings had basically collapsed. Only a few buildings were left in half. Broken walls and ruins were everywhere. Lei Xingfeng saw the ruins and smiled bitterly. He had seen too many ruins like this. Most of them weren't worth searching. Basically, there wouldn't be anything valuable inside. Even if there was, he wouldn't have time to search. It should be known that the entire ruin was equivalent to a small city. Jing Zia said, "Well, you are unlucky. This should be a residential area." The place with the least profit is also the place with the highest possibility of finding something valuable. It just takes a lot of time. Lei Xingfeng wanted to mobilize people from the mirror realm. Thinking of Yashina, he began to hesitate. Yashina might not kill these low-level cultivators, but he saw so many low-level cultivators. The secret of the mirror realm might not be kept. There were many smart people in the world, not to mention a Dao Lord who stood at the top of the current cultivation world. He definitely wasn't stupid. After a while, they all arrived at the center area. Wu Yang said, "This restriction circle is a residential area. It's not interesting." Gucci said, "There's a collapsed tower in the corner. We found some sky divination crystals. There aren't many, but it's still a bit of harvest." Wu Yang sighed and said, "Actually, this place is still worth searching. It's not worth it for us to come here. Why don't we call people from the mirror realm in?" Chapter 454. Lei Xingfeng said, "If Yashina comes in, we'll be in trouble." Wu Yang said, "Yeah, I'm worried about that too. If Yashina comes in and sees low-level cultivators, he'll know that we have the mirror realm." Thunderstorm said, "Forget it. We have the mirror realm. We can come in any time in the future." Everyone smiled in relief. That's right, if they sent more people in a few months, they would definitely be able to turn this place upside down. Even ordinary people would be able to come in. The mirror realm had a lot of people. The subordinates and family members of the disciples, as well as the sects they were affiliated with, added together, the mirror realm already had 70 to 80,000 people. No other sects had this kind of foundation. This was one of the benefits of having the mirror realm. Wu Yang said, "Let's go. We'll keep going. I believe that even if Yashina comes in, he won't be able to do anything when he sees the ruins." Everyone looked at Lei Xingfeng. If they continued to move forward, he would have to lead the way. Lei Xingfeng smiled and said, "I'll remember this. He said so much. There will be plenty of opportunities in the future." This is the dish that our secret sect ordered. Everyone, follow me." He found a high place and quickly looked around. During this time, everyone was surprised to see the silver light in his eyes. They knew that there was definitely something wrong with his eyes. This time, it was very short, and Lei Xingfeng was gradually getting used to it. Although there were tears in his eyes, they did not flow down. He looked very teary, which made everyone speechless. However, everyone knew that he was crying because of the silver light. There was no doubt about it, so no one said anything. Only Thunderstorm gently patted Lei Xingfeng's shoulder. Lei Xingfeng pointed in a direction and said, "Go through here. Although it's not the weakest point, we have to go through that point." With Lei Xingfeng's sharp eyes, the group didn't have to worry about where to go. The most difficult thing about the Great Forbidden Land was walking. If they didn't walk properly, it would be difficult to even take a single step forward. Lei Xingfeng took the lead and led the way. Soon, they arrived at the edge of the restriction. This time, it was Thunderstorm who attacked. Although this place was not the weakest point of the restriction, it was still a relatively weak point. Thunderstorm only needed 2 strikes to break through the restriction, and a few of them quickly passed through. Wu Yang sighed and said, "If we had known that a Feng had this kind of ability, we wouldn't have wasted so many opportunities. What a pity." Gucci said, "In the past, even if a Feng had this kind of ability, he wouldn't dare to bring it into the forbidden grounds. Even I don't dare to come in. Once we encounter a destructive restriction, there's no need to run at all. We'll all die in one go." Wu Yang nodded and said, "That's right. Even monarchs don't dare to come in. If it wasn't for the mirror realm, I wouldn't dare to go deep into the core area of the forbidden grounds either." Lei Xingfeng was a little curious and asked, "Destructive restriction? What do you mean?" He had never seen this kind of restriction before. Wu Yang said with a serious face, "Once this restriction is triggered, if your defense can't withstand it, you'll be turned into ashes in an instant. It's a killing restriction unique to each forbidden ground. There are very few small forbidden grounds, and there are also a limited number of normal forbidden grounds. However, in the major forbidden grounds, there will be killing restrictions set up in key areas. If you want to gain something, you have to face this restriction." Lei Xingfeng said, "Okay, I'll be careful. As long as he encountered a killing restriction, he could distinguish it by the color of the restriction. He couldn't do it now. He had too little experience and too little contact with restrictions. This was his weakness. They avoided several restriction circles in a row. There were quite a few overlapping restriction circles here, and they were extremely dense. The closer they got to the core area, the more there were. They had to be very careful to avoid them. According to Wu Yang, it was very difficult to move forward here. Often, they would encounter a restriction circle every few hundred meters. The scariest thing was that the restriction circles in the core area often had a certain degree of counterattack power. In other words, the more powerful the attack, the more powerful the counterattack. Lei Xingfeng didn't dare to attack any restriction circles for the time being. He hoped to find the core area, a valuable place, and then attack. Under Lei Xingfeng's lead, the group moved very quickly. They continuously bypassed many restriction circles and were already close to the core area. When they arrived at the foot of the mountain, they could clearly see the tall tower on the mountain peak. They could faintly hear roars in the distance. Everyone looked at each other and laughed. They knew that it was Yashina and his companions who were still attacking the restriction circles. They didn't have the eyesight of Lei Xingfeng, so it was normal that they were blocked by the restriction circles. Wu Yang sneered and said, Yashina might be a Tao Lord, but if the strength of his attacks is too strong and the entire restriction circle collapses, it will be fun. Lei Xingfeng didn't understand and asked, what will happen? Wu Yang pointed above and said, it will cause the tower to attack. If the tower attacks, he will be in trouble. Even if he doesn't die, he will lose half his life. The attack power of the tower in the core area is unimaginable. Even a Tao Lord won't be able to withstand it. Gucci said, let that guy slowly crawl over. It's still too early for him to think that we are here. Lei Xingfeng looked for a moment and said, that's a dead end. He can't cross it at all. If he wants to force his way through, he'll have to go through at least a dozen restriction circles. He will die of exhaustion. Everyone couldn't help but laugh. It was difficult for a Tao Lord to die of exhaustion. But in this place, if a Tao Lord couldn't find the way, he would also be unable to move an inch. Thinking about how even a Tao Lord would be defeated, everyone was very happy. Wu Yang said, how do we go up the mountain? Lei Xingfeng said, this mountain doesn't seem to be naturally formed. It seems man-made. It's too sudden. Let me see where we should start. Wu Yang said, I'm also a little confused. This mountain's appearance is too strange. It just appeared out of nowhere, and it's very tall. The surroundings are all flat ground. Gao Yi said, this is definitely the core of the forbidden area. There should be a lot of good things. Let's see if we can go in. Jing Zia said in a rare tone, this mountain should have a standard restriction circle, and its power shouldn't be weak. Lei Xingfeng had already begun to observe. Silver light flickered in his eyes. Lei Xingfeng discovered that this restriction circle was actually dark gray. It was like a thin layer of fog that enveloped the entire mountain. This layer of fog also had a thickness. According to Lei Xingfeng's understanding, the strength of a restriction circle depended on its thickness. Finding the weak point of this restriction circle was his most important task now. Wu Yang raised his head and looked. After a while, he said, it should be surrounded by a restriction circle. This restriction circle should be very powerful. Let me try. He didn't dare to use a powerful attack. Instead, he picked up a stone and threw it with all his strength. In an instant, the basketball-sized stone turned into powder and drifted down. The corners of everyone's eyes twitched when they saw this. Gao Yi shot an icicle. In an instant, the icicle turned into countless ice particles and was reflected back. Gao Yi said, this restriction circle has a counterattack nature. Be careful when you attack. Lei Xingfeng's face was already covered in tears. He smiled bitterly and said, there's no weak point. Wu Yang said, I don't believe that there's no weak point after walking around the mountain. As long as it was a restriction circle, there would be a weak point. Everyone knew this. Therefore, Lei Xingfeng didn't hesitate and said, okay, I'll look for it. After walking around the mountain for 6 days, they finally circled the entire mountain or rather, a section of the mountain range. What surprised Lei Xingfeng was that there really wasn't any weak point. This meant that the entire mountain range was supported by abundant energy. It wasn't like the restriction circles on flat ground. As time passed, the energy would naturally dissipate, causing the restriction circles to reveal weak points. Lei Xingfeng didn't have a good time these days. He cried every day. According to Gao Yi, he cried and walked for 6 days. Lei Xingfeng didn't have a temper. After all, he cried for 6 days. Everyone tried to attack a few times, but the results weren't very good. The counterattack power was too strong. Wu Yang said that it was almost impossible to pass through in one attack unless one was a peak Dao Lord. If they attacked together, there was almost no chance. Everyone couldn't help but sigh in admiration. As expected of a forbidden area, even if there was no one in charge, not everyone could enter the core area. Wu Yang said, since we can't enter, then our main mission will be that restriction circle. With a Feng's ability, entering the restriction circle shouldn't be a problem. We'll definitely find something good. Lei Xingfeng looked at the mountain regretfully and said, what a pity. When our strength increases in the future, we might have a chance. Actually, he didn't feel too bad. To him, the magnetic store mountain range was his treasure. He was here mainly for others. Gucci said, a phone, try your best to find a valuable restriction circle. Lei Xingfeng nodded. There were countless restriction circles here. Each restriction circle was a point. It could be a residential area, a trading area, or something else. It was up to him to choose. After all, he had a pair of special eyes. Gao Yi smiled and said, a phone, continue crying. Lei Xingfeng was speechless. After a while, he said, Uncle Gao, I'm not crying. I'm just crying. Gao Yi said, I know. You're crying. Ha! Since he couldn't explain, Lei Xingfeng ignored him and continued crying. He continued to observe. Soon, he found a small restriction circle. Large restriction circles were usually residential areas. Lei Xingfeng hoped to find something valuable, so he chose a small restriction circle to see if there was any difference. The closer it was to the mountain, the more important it was. Therefore, it was important to choose a restriction circle. When Lei Xingfeng was looking at the restriction circles on the mountain peak, he paid attention to the various restriction circles around him. He muttered to himself for a while and said, there's a very special restriction circle. It should be very small. I estimate that it's at most 100 mu. I wonder if there's anything good in it. Wu Yang said, let's go and take a look. Where is it? Lei Xingfeng said, go back. It'll take more than half a day. Everyone followed Lei Xingfeng back. They ran quickly along the path at the foot of the mountain. Other than Lei Xingfeng, no one knew which restriction circle it was. After spending less than half a day, they arrived at the place Lei Xingfeng pointed out. This was a dense forest. The restriction circle was in the forest. Not far into the forest was the restriction circle. This time, even Wu Yang and the others could see it clearly. Because of the restriction circle, the trees grew sparsely. Therefore, a 3-meter wide gap was naturally formed. It was very conspicuous in the dense forest. Chapter 455. Lei Xingfeng said, I don't think this restriction has been attacked. Thunderstorm asked, why not? How can you tell that this restriction has not been attacked? Lei Xingfeng said, as long as it is attacked, the trees growing in the restriction will immediately be crushed by an invisible force. Since it has been able to grow until now, it means that this restriction has not been touched. Lei Xingfeng rubbed his eyes. He also felt that he had used his eyes too much this time. He endured the pain and poured the power of thunder and lightning into his eyes again. This time, it only took him a dozen seconds to disperse the power of thunder and lightning in his eyes. He wiped his tears and said, over there, it's better for a few people to attack together. This restriction has fewer flaws. It won't be like last time, where it was broken in one blow. Let's attack together. Although the combined attack was not as powerful as a Dao Lord's attack, it could exert a great attack power. Boom! The whole ground shook. In an instant, a crack appeared in the restriction. They did not dare to delay and rushed in one after another. Lei Xingfeng's eyes lit up. He could not help but exclaim, "Damn, it's so beautiful!" Rays of multicolored light rose into the sky, revealing pieces of colorful stones on the ground. In the middle, there was a dark green pond. Behind a small white bridge, there was an extremely exquisite small building. Through the rising multicolored light, it looked even more magnificent. What was this place? Not only was Lei Xingfeng dumbfounded, but the others were also dumbfounded. They had never seen such an exquisite courtyard before. Jing Zia said faintly, "This should be a senior institute." Lei Xingfeng asked, "What is a senior institute?" Everyone walked closer and listened to Jing Zia's explanation. The senior institute is actually a place where the supreme leader of the Forbidden Lands recuperates after he abdicates his position. Generally, there are always a few senior institutes in the Forbidden Lands. Their status is high, and they usually do not manage things. However, their influence in the Forbidden Lands is extraordinary. Moreover, every leader of the Forbidden Lands must obtain the tacit approval of the senior institutes. In other words, as long as the senior institutes do not object, according to the normal procedure, the leader can take up the position. Lei Xingfeng said, "If Elder Qian objects," Jing Zia said, "then you won't be a leader. That's why you have a very high status." Everyone's eyes lit up. The house of such a big shot should have some good stuff, right? It was as if there was a little bug crawling in everyone's heart, making their hearts itch unbearably. Gao Yi said, "Let's go in and take a look." As he spoke, he rushed ahead. Jing Zia opened her mouth to say something, but before she could say anything, she heard a loud boom. Gao Yi was sent flying back. Those multicolored lights were the restrictions. Gao Yi wasn't injured, but he looked very miserable. All his clothes were torn apart, and he was to blame for not being prepared. Fortunately, the counterattack wasn't strong enough, and so it only tore his clothes. After all, he was a Heaven Monarch realm expert, and he was able to withstand such an attack. He cursed as he crawled up and said, "What the hell? Why is this a restriction?" Gucci said, "Let me try." Without a doubt, he was also sent flying by the huge force. Wu Yang, Thunderstorm, and Lei Xingfeng all tried once. No one could pass through the multicolored stone path on the ground. The multicolored stone path circled around the pond and the small building. If they couldn't pass through the multicolored stone path, it meant that they couldn't enter the small building and they wouldn't be able to gain anything. Wu Yang was discouraged. He said, "Damn it. If there was a Dao Monarch, we might have succeeded. We are still too weak, and we don't dare to attack together. That would cause too much of a commotion." His tone was filled with unwillingness. They were already at the door, but they still couldn't enter. It was really too depressing. It was fine if they couldn't enter the tall tower in the core area. After all, that was the core of the Forbidden Land. It was indeed very difficult to enter, but they couldn't even enter a small courtyard. It was really frustrating. Lei Xingfeng shook his head and said, "This is really strange." Gucci said, "A phone. Can't you find the weak point here?" Lei Xingfeng said, "In such a small place, the restriction is strong enough. There is no weak point. Even if my eyes were to pop out, it would be useless." Jing Zia said, "Let me try." As she spoke, she stepped forward steadily on the path and walked forward along the multicolored stone path. Everyone was dumbfounded. Just now, everyone had tried their best, but they couldn't enter. However, Jing Zia stepped on the multicolored stone path so easily. This was too strange. Lei Xingfeng said, maybe the restriction on the multicolored stone path is only for people, not puppets?" Wu Yang stared at Jing Zia. After a while, he said, "It seems so. I didn't expect it to work." Lei Xingfeng shouted, "Jing Zia, when we reach the small building, go back to the mirror world and take us in." Jing Zia waved her hand, indicating that she understood. Soon, she walked to the front of the small building and disappeared. Lei Xingfeng took everyone back to the mirror world. Jing Zia was already standing in the yard. Lei Xingfeng said, "Haha, it worked. Jing Zia, take me there, and then I will take the others in." There were some rules in the mirror world that had to be followed. Jingxia could take one person in and out, but it had to be a place she had been to before. It was more difficult to take many people in, especially in this kind of restricted place. However, Lei Xingfeng didn't have this restriction. In other words, this restriction couldn't restrict Lei Xingfeng. Jingxia nodded and took Lei Xingfeng to the small building. Soon, Lei Xingfeng took the others to the small building. Looking back, the multicolored light was overflowing. Lei Xingfeng exclaimed, "It's so beautiful, but it's a powerful restriction. It's really hard to imagine." Wu Yang sighed with emotion. "Yes, the more beautiful it is, the more dangerous it is." Thunderstorm stared at the door of the small building and said, "There shouldn't be any restriction on this door, right?" Lei Xingfeng was the fastest. He walked up the stairs and pushed open the door made of unknown materials. The door wasn't locked, and it opened as soon as it was pushed open. Lei Xingfeng didn't dare to step in immediately, but stood at the door and looked inside. Lei Xingfeng's first impression of a very clean room. The room was empty. This was his second impression. It was clean, without any furniture or decorations. It was just an empty room. Lei Xingfeng couldn't help muttering to himself, "No way, they all moved away? It's really F***king clean." The others rushed up and craned their necks to look inside the room. After a while, Wu Yang said, "Well, it's even cleaner than after a robbery." Thunderstorm stepped in and said, "This is the best room outside. Well, there's a staircase here. We could go upstairs." Lei Xingfeng said, "There are rooms on the first floor that we haven't checked yet." They opened the rooms one by one. What was disheartening was that the rooms were really clean. There was nothing, not only downstairs, but also upstairs. Everyone was so angry that they cursed. It had been really hard to get here, and they had even offended a Dao Lord. This was a big loss. Jingxia said, "Elder Qi won't clean it himself, and if his subordinates do it, they won't leave anything behind." Lei Xingfeng said unwillingly, "Let's see if there's a basement or something like that." Everyone immediately began to search. After knocking around, everyone came to the same conclusion. There was no basement here. Everyone's expression was not too good. Wu Yang said, "Forget it. Let's leave this place. It's not worth wasting time here." Gao Yi said, "It's normal. Not everyone is extravagant. I hope we can meet someone careless." Wu Yang said, "There's not much hope. It'll depend on luck." Lei Xingfeng said, "It'll be best if it's a place like the Magnetic Storm Mountain Range. There might be some gains, but we don't know where the place is." Wu Yang nodded and said, "That's a good idea." Gao Yi shook his head and said, "Where are we going to find it? There are countless restriction rings. Who knows which restriction ring is the cultivation place?" Wu Yang said, "Take your time. We can always find it. We have the mirror realm. Even if we can't find it for the time being, we can come back at any time. I can't guarantee anything, but this time it's completely different. We have clear coordinates here. Even if I come alone, I can find one restriction ring at a time." Gucci applauded and said, "Yes, we don't have to be so anxious. It was very difficult to come here before, so of course we had to search together. Now we can come back at any time. What's the hurry? Haha, take your time. I believe that there are no secrets here for us." Thunderstorm was actually not very interested in this place. With the Magnetic Storm Mountain Range, he was not interested in any forbidden areas. The Magnetic Storm Mountain Range was the place where he and Lei Xingfeng studied and cultivated. It was just that he had a headache about how to enter the back mountain. Unlike Lei Xingfeng, he had tried many times, but he still couldn't pass the baptism of countless lightning bolts in the canyon. Wu Yang said, "Actually, this is a good place for seclusion. There won't be any disturbances. It could be used as a villa." Gucci said, "My residence in the mirror realm is enough. There's no need to come here." Lei Xingfeng said, "Are we going to continue?" Wu Yang said, "Let's go back for now. I plan to come back in a few days. Are you guys coming?" Lei Xingfeng shook his head and said, "No, I'm going to the Magnetic Storm Mountain Range with Yi." Gao Yi said, "I'm going to the Ice Palace." Wu Yang nodded and said, "Okay, if I find anything, I'll let you guys know. Let's go together then." Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, "Okay, let's go together then." Everyone returned to Lei Xingfeng's courtyard in the Mirror Realm. This place had become the central point to enter the mirror realm. Everyone set their return point at Lei Xingfeng's courtyard. Wu Yang and Gucci weren't disappointed. They had gained a lot from this trip, and they could go there often in the future. Wu Yang and Gucci both made the Great Forbidden Land their focus. The two of them left Lei Xingfeng's courtyard together. Gao Yi said, "A phone, I'm going to the Ice Palace. Do you want to go together?" Lei Xingfeng thought for a moment and said, "Uncle Gao, you go ahead and explore first. If you think it's enough, I'll go with you." Gao Yi didn't force him. He smiled and said, "Okay, I still need to rely on you to see through the restrictions." With that, he disappeared and went directly to the Ice Palace. Thunderstorm saw that everyone had left and said, "A phone, we're going to the magnetic storm mountain range." Lei Xingfeng smiled and said, "Yi, there's no need to rush. Take a rest and eat something first." He called a waiter and asked him to bring Jean Pan over. Chapter 456. A moment later, Jean Pan ran over with Tung Yuan. Lei Xingfeng asked curiously, "Senior brother, why are you here?" Tung Yuan grinned. "I got some new ingredients and was discussing with old Fatty how to cook them." Lei Xingfeng was speechless. After a while, he said, "Senior brother, you're different from old Fatty. You're a direct descendant. It's not good if your cultivation is too low." Tung Yuan didn't care at all. He smiled and said, "I can't find a suitable cultivation method for now. Master said that we'll work hard when we find a better one." Jean Pan said, "A phone, have some cold dishes first. I'll cook something delicious for you." As he spoke, he reached out and wiped the table. 8 dishes appeared. Lei Xingfeng smiled. "Okay. Anyway, I'm looking for food. You're the right person. Yi, have some first." Large bowls of food were served. The father and son ate happily. As soon as they finished eating, they saw Gucci emerge from the courtyard. Lei Xingfeng knew at a glance that he came in from outside. He stood up and asked curiously, "Master, why did you come in from outside? Did you go out just now?" Gucci said, "A phone, come with me to the forbidden area." Gao Yi isn't here?" Lei Xingfeng asked what happened. "Uncle Gao went to the Ice Palace. Should we call him back?" Gucci said, "No, you go with the old man. We'll go back to the forbidden area." Thunderstorm was also curious. They had just left the forbidden area. What could have happened? He stood up and said, "Okay." The 3 of them disappeared instantly and returned to the forbidden area. Lei Xingfeng realized that Wu Yang and Gucci didn't delay at all. After returning to the mirror world, they immediately returned to the forbidden area. As soon as Lei Xingfeng appeared in the forbidden area, he heard a rumbling sound. He staggered and said, "What's that?" Gucci said, "See for yourself." Xian Feng and Lei Bao both sucked in a breath of cold air as a gigantic monster raised its claws and slapped down. Dust flew everywhere. The restriction circle was originally colorless and invisible, but under the attack of this power, it flashed with colorful brilliance. Thunderstorm stared at the monster and said, "What is this thing?" Wu Yang didn't even turn his head and said, "An adult star beast. It was released by Yasina. That guy got lucky. He actually found a star beast and angered it." Lei Xingfeng said, It's a star beast. What kind of star beast is it?" Because they were on higher ground, they could clearly see the battle scene. The star beast was so big that Lei Xingfeng was stunned. He had seen star beasts before, but he didn't see them clearly. He just glanced at them from afar and ran away. Back then, in order to find the Saint Crystal, they alarmed the stone star beast. The whole world was stirred up by the stone star beast. No one dared to stay, and everyone ran away. This star beast was more than 300 meters long. It was a huge monster. It could break many restriction circles with a turn of its body. They didn't know how Yasina provoked this thing. Wu Yang said, "Yasina is running away." Lei Xingfeng's eyes flickered with silver light. After a while, he said, "He can't escape. He doesn't have the mirror world. He's surrounded by restriction circles. Although some of them are broken by the star beast, most of the restriction circles are still there." "Roar," Thunderstorm said. "What a tribute is this star beast." The star beast roared and pounced with its claws again. Boom! The entire earth was trembling, and all the restrictions in the vicinity were emitting light. This time, everyone could see it clearly. Wu Yang exclaimed, "So many restriction circles. Terrifying." Lei Xingfeng said, "I don't know what a tribute this star beast is." "Ah, Yasina's companions aren't here. This guy's like a fly. He's being bullied to death." The astral beast kept smashing with its claws, as if it was swatting a fly. Although Yashina was a Tao lord, his attacks had almost no effect on the astral beast except to enrage it. The skin of an adult astral beast was simply too tough. Moreover, Yashina was not a peak Tao lord. He had just become a Tao lord, and his strength was still too weak compared to the astral beast. In fact, Yashina didn't want to fight the astral beast at all, but he had nowhere to run. The restrictive circle around him restricted his movements, and he didn't dare to fly into the air, so he could only desperately dodge. He looked like a little flea jumping around. Although the astral beast was strong, Yashina was too small. It was a little difficult to hit it. Lei Xingfeng said in fear, "If he's hit by the star beast's claws, his sh*t will come out, right?" Wu Yang said, "He'll be a pile of meat paste. If he's hit, it doesn't matter if he's sh*t or not." A flock of crows flew past Lei Xingfeng's eyes. If he was hit by the star beast's claws, no matter what he would be a thin piece of meat paste. It was as if a huge hammer was pounding on the ground. There was a series of explosions mixed with Yashina's crazy attacks. This guy was probably crazy. He was chased and smashed by the star beast. There was nothing he could do. He hit the restriction circle several times. If he didn't react fast enough, he would have been smashed to death. Yashina roared again and again, but his voice was too weak compared to the star beast's. The roar of the star beast caused the winds to change. Even Xian Feng and the others felt dizzy from the roar. One could imagine how much pressure Yashina had to endure. Wu Yang said, "Poor guy. Although he's a Tao lord, what's the use?" His tone was full of schadenfreude. Lei Xingfeng sighed. "Tao lord, he's being beaten so badly. This star beast is really powerful." Wu Yang said, "That's an adult star beast. It's completely different from young star beasts. It's at the peak of its combat power. Perhaps only a peak Tao lord can deal with it for a while. It's still far from being able to defeat such a star beast. However, a peak Tao lord should be able to retreat easily. Yasina can't retreat even if he wants to. He can only hold on and see his luck. If he's lucky, he might be able to escape with his life." Thunderstorm said in a low voice, "He's injured." Lei Xingfeng observed carefully. Indeed, he found that Yasina's movements had slowed down slightly. His originally smooth movements had begun to change shape and slow down. His situation had become worse. Gucci said, "He's using the star beast to break the restrictive formation. Look, the star beast has broken at least a dozen restrictive formations between the place where the battle started and the place where the battle is now." Lei Xingfeng's blood was boiling as he watched. This kind of battle with the star beast was really too exciting. Of course, no matter how excited he wouldn't go forward to help unless his brain was damaged. Even if he didn't participate in this kind of battle personally, he could learn a lot just by watching the battle. Yasina took the risk of luring the star beast to attack the restrictive formation. Then he constantly flashed and dodged. Every time the star beast's huge claw landed, a corner of the restrictive formation would be damaged. However, with time, it could slowly recover. If the restrictive formation was weaker, then the star beast's claw would break it and it would never recover. Lei Xingfeng praised, "Yasina hasn't escaped yet, but he's already thinking about how to use the star beast. Amazing." The astral beast's two front claws were especially huge, and it dragged a huge tail. Its back was full of thick saw teeth, and it had a huge triangular snake-shaped head. It looked extremely evil, and its entire body was covered in earthy yellow scales. Yashina's attack could only leave a small dent on its surface. It couldn't hurt at all. Boom, boom. Two consecutive claws slammed the ground like waves. It actually forced Yasina to fly up. However, Yasina was also smart. He knew that this was an absolute no-fly zone. He instantly flashed in the air and landed on the side. Before he could stand still, a thick tail swept over. After flashing again, Yasina finally dodged. He was already exhausted. After fighting for so long, he didn't expect the star beast to be so abnormal. When he saw the star beast in the restrictive formation, he was very excited. He finally found a good treasure. In the end, he broke the restrictive formation. He didn't expect that the star beast would attack him as soon as it escaped. His companion didn't even have time to react before he was smashed into meat paste. A lord of heaven died so worthlessly. Yasina was furious and launched a powerful attack. In an instant, it angered the star beast. One man and one beast forced their way out of the ground and started a fierce battle. After fighting for half a day, Yasina was exhausted. However, he didn't know how to escape. The star beast was like a maggot in a tarsal bone. It stared at him and attacked fiercely, not giving him any chance to breathe. Of course, he didn't know that the star beast also had its scruples. It dared to smash the restrictive formation, but it didn't dare to use its innate skill to attack. That would cause the restrictive formation to counterattack. If it used its innate skill to attack, Yasina wouldn't have the chance to resist for so long. Boom! Another claw came down. Yasina wanted to cry, but had no tears. You can't bully me like this. After all, I was the one who let you out. How can you be so unloyal? The star beast flashed continuously, each time getting closer and closer to the star beast. The star beast did not hold back and swung its claw at Yasina. Yasina felt his entire body go limp. He tried his best to flash away, but when his figure appeared, he saw the huge claw sweeping towards him. The distance of the flash was too close, and the timing was not right. In his despair, Yasina gathered all the strength in his body and filled it with defense. The claw landed on his body. Yasina was sent flying. Yasina was slapped into the air by the claw. It was like a tennis racket hitting a tennis ball. He was shot into the sky in a straight line. Wu Yang, Lei Xingfeng, Guqi, and Thunderstorm. The four of them stared at Yasina, who was sent flying by the star beast's claw. Wu Yang muttered to himself, "It's over." Thunderstorm said, "It shouldn't be a big problem. At most, he'll be a little injured. Using this opportunity, he can probably escape." Guqi said, "He won't be able to escape." Wu Yang said, "You'll soon see the no-fly zone of the Forbidden Land, especially near the core area." The star beast also looked up at Yasina, who was sent flying, and let out a proud roar. Then, everyone saw a shocking scene. The tower on a mountain peak suddenly shot out a bright light. The light flew out as if it was solid. Yasina roared, and a seal flew out. Instantly, light shone in all directions. The seal of a Tao lord usually wouldn't leave his body. If it came out, it meant that he had to fight with his life. The solid light blasted Yasina's body. In an instant, it was as if a dahlia had bloomed. Countless colorful lights splashed in the air. Chapter 457. Lei Xingfeng said, "That's it." Wu Yang said, "It's not that easy to kill a Tao Lord." As expected, Yasina roared and flew down from the sky. He was in a hurry to escape the tower's attack. Then, the tower shot out countless rays of light and attacked Yasina. Yasina defended frantically, but everyone knew that he couldn't hold on for long. Then, an even more shocking scene appeared. Yasina saw that he couldn't escape the tower's attack, so he simply pounced on the smug astral beast underground. He crashed into the astral beast like a meteor. Lei Xingfeng couldn't help but clap. Good. Even if he dies, he'll take the astral beast with him. Haha, what a powerful guy. Wu Yang sighed. If it were me, I'd make the same choice. The astral beast was obviously a little flustered. It ran, not caring if there were any restriction circles in front of it. However, no matter how fast the astral beast ran, it wasn't as fast as Yasina. Just as Yasina crashed into the astral beast, the tower's attack came. Yasina succeeded. Of course, he didn't expect that the tower wouldn't let him go. Instead, it attacked two targets, including the astral beast. The attacks fell like rain, and the astral beast fled frantically. One restriction circle after another was destroyed, and the tower's attacks became sharper and sharper. Yashina was the first to be killed by the tower. No matter how much conflict Wuyong and the others had with Yashina, seeing a Taoist lord die made them feel a little sad. This was the so-called "the fox mourns the death of the rabbit." Wuyong sighed and said, "This is the first time I've seen a Taoist lord die with my own eyes. I've heard that a Taoist lord was killed in the Great Forbidden Land before, but I've always been a little doubtful. I always thought that with the strength of a Taoist lord, if he couldn't beat his opponent, he could always escape. I didn't expect Yashina to die so easily." Lei Xingfeng said, "Yashina is already very powerful. He fought with an adult astral beast for so long, but in the end he died under the combined attacks of the tower and the astral beast. If we go up, it'll be useless no matter how many people we have." Gucci said, "We have the mirror world. We won't die." Wuyong said, "That's the mirror realm. If it wasn't, then it would indeed be the result that a Feng said." The tower was still attacking the star beast, and its strength was increasing. It was as if it knew that normal attacks were useless against the star beast. Lei Xingfeng said, "I wonder if the tower can kill this astral beast." Wuyong said absent-mindedly, "It should be able to kill it. Judging from the star beast's cowardice, which is completely different from when it was bullying Yashina, I can tell that the tower has a restraining effect on it. Well, I'm thinking that since the restriction circle has been broken, when this matter is over, there must be something good here." Lei Xingfeng smiled and said, "It's not just something good. If the astral beast is killed, an adult astral beast. TSK, won't we make a fortune?" Everyone's spirits were suddenly lifted. Only now did they realize that the astral beast itself was extremely valuable. The reason why they didn't consider it was because they didn't think that they could kill the astral beast. The first thing an adult astral beast would do when it saw one was run away. If they were targeted by the astral beast, without a heaven-defying treasure like the mirror realm, they would be dead for sure. Similarly, the value of an astral beast was immeasurable. Its whole body was really a treasure. Wuyong clapped his hands and said with a smile, "If it weren't for a Feng's reminder, I would have forgotten. Ha! I never dared to think about attacking an adult astral beast. I never thought that this astral beast would be killed by the tower." Gucci also laughed. This was a good opportunity to take advantage of the situation. As long as the tower's attack reached its peak, the astral beast probably wouldn't be able to escape. Thunderstorm said, "This astral beast is very strong. Will it escape?" Wuyong said with a face full of smiles, "It will be very, very difficult to escape. This is the tower in the core area. My impression is that this kind of tower with both defense and attack is the most dangerous thing to provoke." Lei Xingfeng said, "Let's just watch. Anyway, it's still some distance away from us. It shouldn't affect us." Wuyong said, "We're all at the edge. There are so many restriction circles in front of us. We'll be fine." They were all at the edge of the core area and could clearly see the astral beast. At such a distance, the astral beast looked like a large crocodile, although it looked very different from crocodile. More and more light shone down from the tower. Each light made the astral beast roar violently. However, it couldn't dodge at all. It couldn't avoid the attacks at all. Finally, the astral beast went berserk and directly rushed towards the tower. Lei Xingfeng shouted, "Good. If this guy can break the restriction around the mountain, that would be great. Ha, charge! Charge! Charge!" Everyone was also excited. If they could use the astral beast's power to break the core restriction, then they could enter the mountain. Wuyong said, "I haven't entered the core area of any big forbidden area. Hee. Maybe this time we can use the astral beast's light to enter." They saw the astral beast madly rush to the foot of the mountain. It broke at least 5 or 6 restriction circles along the way and rushed towards the restriction at the foot of the mountain. Lei Xingfeng and the others had tried to break this restriction before. They couldn't find any weakness at all. When the astral beast pounced on it, it emitted a dazzling light. Boom! This was a restriction that could counterattack. The huge counterattack flipped the astral beast over, revealing its bluish-white chest and abdomen. Several attacks from the tower landed on it. From such a distance, Lei Xingfeng could see the splattering blood and the astral beast's crazy roar. Lei Xingfeng said, "Even if the people of the big forbidden area are here, if this astral beast wreaks havoc, it would be a disaster." Wu Yang said, "Of course, astral beasts are overlords everywhere. It's just that there aren't many astral beasts, and they don't form a large scale. Otherwise, how could we, cultivators, survive?" The astral beast stood up and smashed on the restriction with a loud bang. Its huge claws slammed on the restriction again and again, causing earth-shaking sounds. Even though Lei Xingfeng and the others were so far away, they could still hear it clearly. It was like thunder. The tower's attack suddenly changed. A huge spear came out of nowhere and appeared above the astral beast. It suddenly fell down and let out a sharp whistling sound. Lei Xingfeng was stunned. He said, Where did this pillar come from?" That huge spear was like a pillar and was emitting a red light. It fell straight down. The astral beast's huge tail was like a dexterous hand. It suddenly stood up and lashed out. The thick tail hit the falling spear. With a bang, the spear turned into nothingness. Lei Xingfeng's eyes almost popped out. He said in shock, "This thing is actually fake?" Wu Yang explained, "It's formed by the restriction." Suddenly, 2 spears appeared in the air, followed by 4, and 8 spears fell down. The spears could even adjust their own positions and fall towards the astral beast. Suddenly, whistling sounds could be heard. The astral beast suddenly became anxious. Its huge tail crazily lashed out, but it couldn't block all the spears. Puff! Puff! 2 spears pierced its body. The huge impact made the astral beast's huge body shrink. It roared and struggled violently. After the spears pierced its body, they quickly dissipated. However, the wound was still there. The pain made the astral beast go crazy. The astral beast suddenly flew up and crashed into the restriction. The entire mountain peak shook violently. Lei Xingfeng said, F***CK. F***CK. This thing can fly? Wu Yang said, "Nonsense. If astral beasts can't fly, who can?" Lei Xingfeng was puzzled. If it can't fly away, why is it fighting? Gucci said, "If it's in the air, the tower has more ways to attack." It seems that the astral beast already knows how powerful the tower is, but it probably didn't expect that Yoshino would trick it. It's a beast after all. Even if it's an intelligent astral beast, it can't defeat people. Another batch of spears fell. This time, the astral beast was enveloped in a golden light. Wu Yang said, "It's a metal-type astral beast." Lei Xingfeng said, "Why didn't it use its defense earlier?" Wu Yang carefully observed for a moment and said, "This astral beast is already very weak." Sure enough, after blocking this batch of spears, the golden light on the astral beast's body gradually dissipated. The astral beast crazily attacked the restriction again. Boom! This time, even the place where Lei Xingfeng and the others were standing shook as if there was an earthquake. Lei Xingfeng said in surprise, Wow, the restriction is broken." This attack actually completely shattered the entire restriction. In other words, the mountain's protection restriction was gone. Thunderstorm said, thoughtfully, "This restriction is actually very weak. It's just that it's still too strong for us." Lei Xingfeng smiled and said, "That's normal. After so many years of consumption, there shouldn't be much energy left. Hee, I didn't expect to be able to pick up a bargain, and a big one at that. It would be a waste not to pick up a bargain from the astral beast." It was as if the tower had a certain level of intelligence. When it saw the astral beast break the restriction, its attacks became even crazier. Some strange attacks followed. For example, a white sticky substance appeared out of thin air and landed on the astral beast's body. In an instant, the astral beast's movements slowed down. It was an extremely cold ice liquid. Seeing a large piece of ice forming, the astral beast crazily struggled. The shattered ice splashed everywhere. The astral beast tried its best to climb up the mountain. Because it was sealed in ice, its speed was very slow. Wu Yang said, "As long as the astral beast reaches the tower will be finished." Unfortunately, this is the tower's automatic defense. No one is controlling it. Otherwise, the astral beast won't be able to break the restriction. Suddenly, countless small black dots rushed out from the tower. They were like countless ants rushing down the mountain. Lei Xingfeng said curiously, "There are people? How is that possible?" Wu Yang looked carefully and said, "They're not people. They're puppet beasts. Wow, there are so many of them. There are at least 3,000 of them. There are more coming out." Lei Xingfeng felt a chill down his spine. He said, "If we had gone in earlier, it would have been scary. If they had found a loophole in the restriction and entered the vicinity of the tower, these thousands of puppet beasts would have fled in panic. Even the weakest puppet beast would have fled in panic. These things were not afraid of death. When there were only a few of them, it was not a big deal. However, when there were thousands of them, their strength was a little scary." Chapter 458. In an instant, the vanguard was right in front of the astral beast. With a swipe of its claws, it crushed more than a dozen of them. However, there were too many of them. In less than 10 minutes, the astral beast was covered in them. Everyone felt their scalps go numb. Even a Tao Lord would probably run away in the face of so many astral beasts. They did not even know what kind of astral beasts they were. The tower continued to attack, ignoring the astral beasts below. Every attack would injure the astral beast. At the same time, more than a dozen astral beasts were crushed. Lei Xingfeng kept muttering, "Prodigal, prodigal." Seeing the astral beasts being destroyed, Lei Xingfeng's heart ached. These were all good treasures. Gucci said, "It's better that they're destroyed. Otherwise, we'll go up. These astral beasts are too dangerous." They were too far away. With Lei Xingfeng's knowledge, he knew that the astral beasts were usually 2 to 3 meters tall. However, from his position, each astral beast was just a small black dot. He could not see their faces clearly. The astral beasts' movements were restricted. A large number of astral beasts were destroyed. The astral beast rolled on the ground and crushed more than 100 astral beasts. The hillside was in chaos. The astral beast had lost too much blood and was obviously weakened. However, there were still small black dots coming out of the tower. Lei Xingfeng calculated and could not help but exclaim, "This is really a forbidden area. It's completely different from normal forbidden areas. How generous." I calculated that there were at least 6,000 to 7,000 astral beasts. I didn't expect that there would be such a large number of guards left behind. Wu Yang said, "Perhaps they still want to come back, but they never did." Not only did the astral beasts use their claws and tails to attack, but they also kept on rolling. However, it was very dangerous when they rolled, as they would expose their chests and abdomens, which were relatively weaker in defense. However, rolling was very destructive, and hundreds of astral beasts would be crushed in a single roll. Lei Xingfeng and the others were getting more and more excited. The astral beast was clearly at its limit. Under the doll beast's frenzied attacks, the astral beast was already covered in blood. Even if the doll beast only made a small cut on the astral beast's body, the astral beast would definitely not be able to take it. Furthermore, the doll beast's goal was not to kill the astral beast, but to keep it occupied. The truly powerful attacks were all carried out by the tower. The tower's attack had also weakened. Lei Xingfeng and the others understood that the tower didn't have an endless supply of energy. This kind of consumption was something that even the tower couldn't bear, so it was normal for the attack to weaken. Both sides were clearly exhausted. Even if the tower was not a human, it would not be able to hold on much longer. If it was at its peak, a single astral beast would be troublesome, but it would definitely not be able to threaten its safety. But now it was a big problem. Wu Yang said, "This is a big harvest. If I miss it, I will regret it for the rest of my life." Thunderstorm said faintly, "Unless both sides suffer and perish together, that will be the most beneficial moment for us." Lei Xingfeng was almost drooling. He said, "A Venus beast. If we use its bones to forge weapons, TSK, no material can compare. Gucci said, if it's the bones of a thunderous beast, wouldn't it be better for you? Thunderstorm said, it's not the same. Some things complement each other. A Venus beast bones are actually better than a thunderous beast bones. Yes, I saw this in a page of the Astral Python records. I don't know if it's true or not. Wu Yang said, no matter what attribute the weapon is, the Venus beast bones are the best choice. It's the best material for forging weapons. Gucci smacked his lips and said, it's a pity that the blood is the best material for concocting potions. Wu Yang said, don't worry. Even if it loses so much blood, there's still a lot left in its body. The worst thing is that the astral beast is seriously injured and not dead. That would be troublesome. Even if it's seriously injured, it will be difficult for us to kill it. Lei Xingfeng suddenly said, there are no more puppets coming out of the tower. Everyone immediately looked over. Indeed, the group of puppets that came out from the bottom of the tower had completely disappeared. The puppets that came out were surrounding the astral beast and killing it. After the astral beast killed most of the puppets, it once again began to climb with difficulty. Its goal was clear. It wanted to destroy the tower so that it could regain its freedom. Pagoda's attacks had also changed. Ray after ray of light, all of them penetrating, hit the star beast's body, and blood blossomed one after another. The star beast's roar had also changed, becoming a howl. Pagoda's every attack was unbearable to it, but it couldn't dodge, and its huge body was even more of a burden. It could only forcibly bear the attacks and support itself as it climbed up. With every step it took, blood and flesh splattered everywhere. Finally, the astral beast approached the tower. The remaining puppets attacked even more crazily. However, there were less than 1,000 of them left. The tower had sent out 10,000 puppets, but they were almost exhausted. The claw hit the tower, and with a loud bang, the tower shook violently. The tower's attack suddenly slowed down, and the star beast became excited. It roared and hit the tower with its claw again. The tower shook even more violently, and the tower's attack finally stopped. Then the astral beast stood up and slammed into the tower. This time, not only the tower couldn't withstand it, but the astral beast couldn't take it either. It forgot that it was heavily injured. This attack not only caused a large part of the tower to collapse, but also caused blood to spurt out from its body. The astral beast was already in a daze. There was only anger in its heart. It only wanted to destroy the tower. Therefore, after this attack, its body fell down and smashed a group of puppets. Then, it stood up again and slammed into the tower again. Wu Yang said, this astral beast is crazy. Afeng, you guys be careful in the future. Don't provoke the astral beast. This thing is terrifying. After angering it, it really doesn't fear death. Lei Xingfeng said, I think this tower can't be saved. After a few more hits, this tower will definitely collapse. Wu Yang said, this is bad. According to this rhythm, the astral beast might not die. The remaining puppets can't threaten the astral beast at all. Yes, it can escape after crashing into the tower. Lei Xingfeng, Gucci, and Thunderstorm all looked extremely regretful. If the tower collapsed and the astral beast was heavily injured, it meant that the astral beast could escape. As long as it found a safe place and recuperated for more than 10 years, the astral beast would be able to recover most of its injuries. At that time, it could be said that no one could threaten it. The tower was very tall. It was almost 700 meters tall. In addition to the mountain peak, it could be said that it reached straight into the clouds. This tower was fixed by a seal. When the astral beast slammed into the tower crazily, the seal on the tower gradually collapsed. After 5 consecutive hits, the tower finally couldn't withstand and collapsed. The entire tower broke into two. The top half came crashing down. Coincidentally, the top half of the tower smashed into the frenzied astral beast. In an instant, the star beast let out a wail and was buried under the countless bluestones. The remaining mannequins were also buried under the bluestones. Only the star beast's triangular head was exposed. It was completely exhausted and had no strength to struggle. It let out a miserable howl. Lei Xingfeng shouted, "This is our chance." Wu Yang also said, "Hurry, hurry back to the mirror realm. Come out directly from the foot of the mountain." Lei Xingfeng immediately led everyone back to the mirror realm. Jean Depeng curiously watched Lei Xingfeng and the others appear in the courtyard. They didn't say a word and then disappeared again. Jean Depeng curiously said, "What's going on? It's so scary to disappear and reappear." When they reappeared, Lei Xingfeng and the others were already at the foot of the mountain. At this time, they could clearly see the intensity of the battle just now. The ground was littered with scattered puppet parts and large amounts of blood. Blood was still flowing down the mountain. They looked at each other and quickly climbed up the mountain. They absolutely couldn't let the astral beast recover. This was everyone's consensus. Once it recovered, they would have no choice but to return to the mirror realm and gain nothing. The four of them frantically climbed up, one by one, and quickly reached the top of the mountain. A mournful howl rang out, shaking the four of them so much that they almost fell down. Wu Yang gritted his teeth and said, "Hurry, hurry, hurry." Lei Xingfeng didn't say anything, but he sped up a bit. Fortunately, the tower had collapsed, so this area was almost empty. However, the four of them didn't dare to take the risk. They had seen the power of the tower, and who knew if there were other towers in this area? If they were targeted, it would be tragic. In a short while, the four of them reached the top of the mountain. After running for a few hundred meters, they saw a small mountain made of limestone. A large amount of blood was gushing out from the cracks of the limestone. After climbing up the star-burying beast hill, the four of them saw the huge, triangular head. It was too big. They went up from the side. The star-burying beast's head was stuck on a rock and couldn't move at all. However, one of its golden red eyes was facing the group. The golden red eyeball, which was as big as a water tank, emitted a cold and merciless light, giving people a feeling of extreme danger. The star beast was already on the verge of death. Its injuries were too severe. Otherwise, it would not have been willing to be buried under the bluestone strips. The four of them looked at the astral beast's huge head in a daze. Lei Xingfeng said, "Damn, how do we fight it?" Wu Yang said, "I'll do it." Before he could make a move, Thunderstorm had already shot out a bolt of lightning, directly striking the astral beast's head. Roar! This roar made everyone dizzy. Lei Xingfeng cursed. "What the hell? This thing's roar can kill people." Wu Yang, Gucci, and Thunderstorm bombarded the astral beast's face with a flurry of attacks. The astral beast only closed its eyes. This barrage of attacks actually didn't break its defense. This guy's skin, flesh, and bones were unbelievably tough. The three of them stopped attacking after a round of frenzied attacks and looked at each other. After a while, Wu Yang said, "How can this be?" It was also his first time facing a real adult astral beast, and he actually couldn't hurt it. The astral beast was beaten up. Although it wasn't injured, it was successfully angered. After a violent tremor, Lei Xingfeng hurriedly flew to a foot away from the ground. Seeing the limestone under his feet start to shake, Wu Yang shouted, "It's going to stand up." Suddenly, everyone became nervous. In fact, the astral beast couldn't stand up at all. The rocks on its body only shook a little, but it successfully made the four men break out in a cold sweat. Lei Xingfeng said, "I swear, if I see a healthy adult astral beast, I'll definitely run back to the mirror world." Chapter 459. The four of them looked helplessly at the astral beast that was still gasping for air. They did not know what to do. Wu Yang said, "Should we wait for it to die or do something else?" Lei Xingfeng said, "Wait for it to die? Definitely not. Astral beasts are much stronger than us. As time passes, it might recover. We have to kill it. If the gold astral beast died, it would be a treasure. If it did not die, it would be a bomb that could cost them their lives." Lei Xingfeng understood this clearly. In fact, Wu Yang and the others also understood this. It was just that they could not find a way to deal with the astral beast in such a short time. Gucci sighed and said, "If only there was a Tao Lord, then there would be no problem." Wu Yang said, "Nonsense. Are you complaining that Master has not reached the level of a Tao Lord? Gucci laughed and said, How would I dare he? Wu Yang said helplessly, What should we do now? Lei Xingfeng stared at the astral beast's huge eyes and suddenly said, There is a way. Wu Yang said, What? Lei Xingfeng said, Attack its eyes. Gucci said, It will close its eyes. We can't break its eyelids. Damn, we can't even break its eyelids. What the hell? Lei Xingfeng said, Let's focus fire on it. We have a try. The gold astral beast's eyes had 2 layers of eyelids. The first layer was actually a membrane, and the outermost layer was the eyelid. It was extremely thick as a palm, and shone with a metallic luster. Lei Xingfeng estimated that even a cannon from his previous life might not be able to penetrate this layer of eyelids. Lei Xingfeng thought for a moment and said, Ancestor, how about I take command? Wu Yang said, Okay, we'll listen to you. Lei Xingfeng said, i.e. Master, Founder, you guys attack first and make it close its eyes. Then I will give it the final blow. He had calculated everything. Just now, he had observed that when the astral beast attacked, it would close its eyes. When it stopped, it would quickly open its eyes. This was his chance. Thunderstorm said, If that's the case, let's attack from a distance. The 3 of them split up and started attacking the astral beast's head from a distance of about 100 meters. Lei Xingfeng flew slightly above the ground. When he was about 1 meter away from the ground, he released his Lei Yin. At the same time, he mobilized the Scarlet Afterglow Sword Seal. This was his trump card, but he wasn't sure if he could pierce through the star beast's eyelids, so he could only use a sneak attack. Wu Yang, Gucci, and Thunderstorm focused their attacks. Of course, they didn't dare to use their ultimate moves. That was the main reason why they couldn't do anything to the astral beast. A trace of disdain flashed through the astral beast's eyes. Then it closed its eyes. This guy looked down on the 4 people in front of it. If it had a little bit more strength, it could crush them with 1 claw. The 4 of them focused their attacks and tried their best not to affect the bluestone strips below. If the surrounding bluestone strips were to be destroyed and the astral beast could raise its claws, it wouldn't be able to bear it. After attacking for 2 minutes, the astral beast's eyelids started to turn red, but it still couldn't break through. Lei Xingfeng shouted, Stop! Wu Yang and the other 2 retreated. Lei Xingfeng only heard a clear sound beside his ear. Then, the astral beast's eyelids moved. He silently released the red Afterglow Sword Seal. A red light with thunder and lightning pierced towards the astral beast. The astral beast was unlucky. After all, it was heavily injured and its reaction was a bit slow. When it opened its eyes, it saw the red Afterglow Sword Seal shooting towards it. It was less than 10 meters away. At this speed, it didn't even have time to close its eyes. Puff! With a soft sound, the red Afterglow Sword Seal directly entered the astral beast's eyes. Behind the eyes was the brain. No matter how powerful the astral beast was, once its brain was attacked, it was completely finished. The astral beast didn't even have the chance to put up a final struggle. It died instantly. Lei Xingfeng's forehead was full of cold sweat. He said, Lucky, lucky. I actually succeeded in 1 hit. Wu Yang said excitedly, Let's start harvesting. Ha! Thunderstorm patted Lei Xingfeng's shoulder and said, A Feng, you're amazing. Gucci said with a smile, A Feng is still smart. Otherwise, this thing would really be a disaster. The 4 people began to move the cyan stones piled up on the astral beast's body. After Lei Xingfeng moved a few pieces, he couldn't help but pat his head. He raised his hand and summoned a large number of steel dolls. These are the best laborers for physical labor. He also released Jing Zia and let her command the work. In this aspect, Lei Xingfeng's command was far inferior to Jing Zia's. When Jing Zia saw the huge head of the astral beast, even a doll couldn't help but be stunned. She said, Astral beast? Heavens, how could you kill an astral beast? Lei Xingfeng said proudly, Although I made the last hit, I didn't kill this one. We don't have such great ability. Jing Zia shook her head repeatedly and said, This thing can only be killed in a big forbidden area. Even if it's an ordinary forbidden area, if it's targeted by an astral beast, it's basically wiped out. Very few people can withstand it. Looking at the corpse of the astral beast, she muttered, "It's simply inconceivable." Lei Xingfeng said, "Jing Zia, you command. Move the stones, and then instruct the dolls to cut up the astral beast." Jing Zia said, "Moving the stones is no problem. The steel dolls can do it. But for cutting up the astral beast, you'd better take out the gold dolls. They're more suitable for this job." The steel dolls were incomparably strong, so this kind of work was easy and pleasant. They just needed to consume some energy. In less than half a day, the astral beast was dug out. Lei Xingfeng and the others were all amazed. This astral beast was too huge. Its claws were like an ancient tree. They were curved like the moon and shone with a metallic brilliance. Its body was more than 300 meters long and looked like a small mountain. Putting the steel dolls aside, Lei Xingfeng summoned the gold dolls. Under Jing Zia's command, they cut open the astral beast's stomach. After the astral beast died, its outer skin was not as hard. Even so, the gold dolls had to use their axes to cut open its skin bit by bit. Meanwhile, Lei Xingfeng and the others were busy collecting the blood that flowed out. This blood was an excellent material for making medicine. Unfortunately, most of the blood had already seeped into the soil. The four of them could only collect a little bit. Each of them had a few buckets. Soon, the four of them set their sights on the astral beast. When the gold dolls cut open the astral beast's stomach, the four of them immediately went forward and used large buckets made of black wood to collect the blood. Bucket after bucket, all of them were the size of water tanks. Once a bucket was filled to the brim, the gold puppet beast would close the lid on the bucket and seal it tightly. Lei Xingfeng filled about 20 buckets. Wu Yang, Guqi, and Thunderstorm did the same. All of them had smiles on their faces. Then, the gold dolls began to cut open the astral beast. The astral beast's most valuable parts were its core, skin, bones, and other parts. Because the astral beast's body was too big, the four of them divided it up. The amount was absolutely shocking. The astral beast's meat had always been a great tonic. Cultivators who ate it would greatly benefit their bodies. This was especially true for metal-attributed astral beast meat. The meat was also evenly distributed. After working for 6 whole days, they finally finished dissecting this extremely huge astral beast. The four of them were very satisfied. Moreover, in the astral beast's spine, they found the rare golden essence beads. There were a total of 72 beads. Each bead was the size of a grapefruit. This was a good material for refining body protection. Each of them had 18 beads. The golden essence beads were the essence of the astral beast's body. Not every astral beast had them. Most of them were only found in adult astral beasts. As the astral beast gradually aged, the beads would gradually decrease. When the 72 beads disappeared, the astral beast's lifespan would be almost over. The astral beast was the golden essence bead. If it was a wood-attributed astral beast, it would be the wood essence bead. If it was a lightning-attributed astral beast, it would be the thunder essence bead. The golden essence bead was a complete accident. Of course, the more accidents there were, the better. After 6 days of work, the four of them were so tired that they were drenched in cold sweat. Lei Xingfeng said, "There shouldn't be anyone coming here for the time being. Let's go back and rest first. After that, we will gather our men and begin the large-scale cleanup." After the astral beast swept through this place, at least dozens of restriction circles were destroyed. Without the protection of the restriction circles, anyone could enter and search. Lei Xingfeng naturally understood that with just the four of them, it would take a long time to complete the search. At this time, the more people there were, the faster the search could be completed. Wu Yang said, "Okay, let's go eat and rest first. After that, we will send people in to search for treasures." Searching on their own was different from sending people to search. If they searched on their own, the good things would be divided among the four of them. If they sent people from the hidden sect to search, then the things they found would be handed over to the hidden sect. Based on what they found, the rewards would be given. Of course, the best rewards would be given to Wu Yang, Guqi, Lei Xingfeng, and Feng Qinzhou. Of course, since Lei Xingfeng had Gao Yi and Thunderstorm, the two great masters, he would get a little more. Lei Xingfeng and the others returned to the Mirror Realm. Everyone was set to go to Lei Xingfeng's courtyard. Emerging from the courtyard, Lei Xingfeng saw Feng Qinzong sitting in the wooden shed in the courtyard. The other senior brothers and sisters were also there. When they saw their ancestor and master, they immediately stood up to greet them. Wu Yang asked, "Has everyone been brought back?" Feng Qinzong said, "Yes, most of them have returned. There are still a few left in the hidden space, no more than 100 people. There is still some follow-up work to be done." The large-scale migration had come to an end. Next was the construction of the Mirror Realm. Lei Xingfeng didn't need to worry about this. His current status was similar to Guqi's. He didn't need to worry about small things. Feng Qinzong was the next successor of the hidden sect. Wu Yang clapped his hands. "Okay, immediately organize people to enter the forbidden area to search. At least 5th ring sage and above. Organize as many people as you have. Leave a few behind to guard the house. The rest gather in this courtyard. Little Feng, you organize it." Everyone was surprised and happy. The forbidden area, that was a legendary place. They could actually enter? Lei Xingfeng said, "Let Fatty cook for us. I'm starving." The four ate and rested while the others in the Mirror Realm busied themselves with selecting people and organizing teams. When Lei Xingfeng and the others woke up after a day of sleep, nearly 2,000 people had gathered. They were all 5th ring sages and above. Even Lei Xingfeng was shocked. He didn't expect there to be so many experts in the hidden sect. Chapter 460. The large group was divided into more than 40 teams. Lei Xingfeng and the others led them into the forbidden area. After entering the forbidden area, Lei Xingfeng, Wu Yang, Guqi, Thunderstorm, and Feng Qinzong discussed how to divide the area. There was a part of the forbidden area where the forbidden area was. The area they divided was where the forbidden area was destroyed by the astral beasts. Wu Yang didn't dare to be careless with the disciples and guards in the forbidden area. They were the backbone and foundation of the hidden sect. Although they were weak, they couldn't afford to lose them. According to the division of the area, the small teams immediately spread out, each direct descendant leading 2 to 4 small teams to search in their own direction. For this, Exine Feng assigned 2 steel mannequin beasts to each small team. In dangerous areas, the steel mannequin beast would lead the way. This would reduce the losses to a minimum. Wu Yang and the others were in the middle. If anyone was in danger, they could immediately come to their aid. Lei Xingfeng and the others didn't search. At this time, their most important task was to keep track of the progress. Lei Xingfeng also called out Jingzia. She stood behind Lei Xingfeng. She knew more about some things than Lei Xingfeng, so he could listen to her opinion. Various reports came in from time to time. Some found energy crystals, such as the sky divination crystal, and some found precious materials. For these enlightened masters, everything in the forbidden area was a treasure. Qi Meiyin ran over to report, "Master, we found a secret transportation door. We didn't dare to open it." Guqi said, "Let's go take a look." Lei Xingfeng knew that the secret transportation doors in the forbidden area were usually used in the forbidden area. It was a very convenient method of transportation. Usually, the place they went to was very secretive. This meant that there was something good there. Jingzia was very familiar with this kind of secret transportation door. She said, "I'll go too." Wu Yang said, "Everyone, let's go take a look." Moments later, the group arrived at an underground building. In the middle of a small space, there was a fixed secret door. Jingzia stepped forward to check it out. After a long while, she said, "It's teleported to a single place. You can go back and forth. It's strange. It's been activated once." Lei Xingfeng said, "Let's send a humanoid beast over first." Jingzia said, "That's good. Let's test it with a human puppet." Lei Xingfeng wasn't willing to use a gold puppet, so he summoned a silver puppet and directly teleported over. Then, Jingzia, Lei Xingfeng, and the others followed. The purpose of using a silver puppet was so that if there was any danger after teleporting over, the puppet could block in front of them. Following the teleportation, everyone appeared in a room that was not very big. There's only a door and no windows, so they knew that this place was most likely underground. One of the doors was already open. Other than the secret door, there was nothing else in the room. It was really refreshing. There wasn't even much dust. Jing Zia commanded the silver puppet to walk in front while the others followed. Qi Meiyun asked curiously, "A phone, where are we going?" Lei Xingfeng shook his head slightly and said, "I don't know. This should be underground. Follow the passage, and we'll know where we are soon." After walking for a short while, Jing Zia said, "The front has collapsed." Lei Xingfeng took a few steps forward to take a look. Sure enough, the passage had completely collapsed. He observed for a while and said curiously, "There are very fresh traces. It seems to have collapsed only a few days ago." Well, could it have collapsed a few days ago? When the star beasts fought, the vibrations caused by them were not only bad for the buildings above ground, but also for the underground. Wu Yang said, "Dig." Lei Xingfeng immediately summoned 2 steel puppets and began to dig. Soon they dug out a passage. This passage was intermittent. There were a total of 3 cave-ins, and they weren't very long. The steel puppets dug very quickly. Basically, they dug through in less than 10 minutes. When the last cave-in point was dug through, everyone couldn't help but be dumbfounded. A huge pit had appeared. It was about 40 meters from the ground, and there was a long opening. Sunlight shone down from this opening. From the remaining walls, this was originally a huge underground hall, but it had already been completely destroyed. Lei Xingfeng immediately reacted and said, "This is the place where the star beasts were imprisoned." Qi Meiyun said in surprise, "Imprisoned star beasts? There are star beasts here?" They muttered in their hearts. Of course, it was a star beast, and an adult one at that. However, it had already been dismembered. Gucci pointed diagonally across and said, "Look, there's also a passage over there. It should be connected to this underground hall." The underground hall here was already a huge pit. Wu Yang took the lead and flew over there. Lei Xingfeng, Gucci, Thunderstorm, and Qi Meiyun followed. When Lei Xingfeng jumped up, he grabbed Jing Zia and flew over with her. It was similar to the previous passage, but the front part had collapsed. Lei Xingfeng still summoned the steel puppets to dig. Soon, the passage was opened, and they walked all the way down. An underground hall appeared. Thunderstorm struck a ball of thunder and lightning, immediately illuminating the entire hall. In the center of the hall was a tower, and a rectangular object was placed on top of it. When they approached it, they were stunned. What is this thing? It was like a glass box, sparkling and translucent, but this wasn't strange. The most terrifying and shocking thing was that inside this rectangular box, there was actually a star python beast. This was also a type of star beast, giving Xian Feng a feeling that it was extremely similar to the so-called dragon from his previous world, except that this star python beast only had 2 front limbs. Its body was no different from pythons, and on its head was a single horn that extended backwards. The edge of the horn was like a saw. Wu Yang said, "It's an adult star python." Lei Xingfeng said, "Why is it so small?" This rectangular object was at most 2 meters long, and its height and width were about 1 meter. An adult star python? It was probably not enough to fit the claws of star python. Jing Zia said, "This is the giant void crystal restriction. Once the restriction is successful, it can't be moved. Once it is moved, the star python inside will escape." Wu Yang immediately withdrew his outstretched hand and said, "It can't be moved." He didn't know this at all. No wonder this thing was restricted here, instead of being taken away by the people of the forbidden area. It turned out that there was a reason for this. Lei Xingfeng said, "Was that golden star beast moved by Yashina?" Thunderstorm laughed and said, "He probably doesn't know this secret. Otherwise, how could he let us take advantage of it?" Qi Meiyun was amazed. She said, "It turns out that the star python is so unique and beautiful." Imprisoned in the giant void crystal restriction, the star python was like a worm in amber, vivid and lifelike. Every detail was presented. Qi Meiyun continued, "The star python record we used was its scale. Lei Xingfeng estimated that one scale of the star python record could make at least 100 star python records. No wonder the star python record was spread everywhere. As long as a star python was killed, a large number of blank star python records could be made. Gucci said, "What a pity, what a pity." Everyone understood what Gucci meant. This star python could only be looked at and couldn't be touched. Whoever touched it would die. Not only the person who touched it, but the surrounding people would also die. If this thing was released, it would probably be as terrifying as the Golden Star Beast, and no one would be able to restrain it. In addition, with the tower destroyed, there was no chance of winning, let alone killing the star python record. Lei Xingfeng and the others looked at the star python record and drooled. Of course, they could only drool. It was really annoying to be able to look at it, but not touch it. Wu Yang was decisive. He said, "Let's hide this place. If there's a chance in the future, we'll come back." Not being strong enough didn't mean that they wouldn't be strong enough for the rest of their lives. They would leave this treasure behind and come back to harvest it when they were strong enough. Lei Xingfeng also reacted. He said, "We can destroy all the passageways and leave only this hall. We can enter this place through the mirror realm. It will be extremely difficult for others to find it." Wu Yang agreed. "Yes, we'll bury this place, not only to keep it a secret, but also for the sake of those who come later. How many of us from the hidden sect, even Dao Lords, know about the Great Void Crystal? If they see it, 99% of them will try to put it into their hidden lens space." Yoshina probably did that and lost his life. After searching around, this should be the last underground hall. Everyone left reluctantly and destroyed the passageway. Then, they went through the huge hole and went to the surface. Lei Xingfeng immediately released a large number of steel dolls and began to fill the hole. A perfected person came to report that in the northwest corner, 3 people were trapped. Gucci scolded, "How can it trap 3 people at once? Are they all idiots?" The perfected person's face was full of sweat. He said, "In the beginning, 1 person was trapped. The other 2 went to save him, so Gucci said, 'Idiots, really idiots.' I've said it countless times. If there's anything, report immediately and take me there." After running 2 steps with the perfected person, he finally reacted. He turned around and said, "A phone, go with Master." Lei Xingfeng nodded. "Okay, let's go together." He gave a few simple instructions to Jing Zia and let her command the steel dolls to continue working. Then, he left with Gucci and the perfected person. Thunderstorm almost laughed out loud. Gucci turned around and called Lei Xingfeng, but he had no choice. In this place, one needed at least a Heaven Monarch realm expert to deal with restrictions. Gucci was only a primary Heaven Monarch and had no confidence in restrictions. He had to call an expert. If he called Master Wu Yang, it would make him seem like he was not skilled. Calling Thunderstorm was not suitable, so he could only call Lei Xingfeng. Lei Xingfeng had a pair of sharp eyes and could quickly find the weakness of restrictions. Therefore, the old man knew what to do. Lei Xingfeng ran with Gucci. They all knew that it was best to save people quickly. Who knew what kind of restrictions and traps there were? Soon, the 3 of them arrived at the place where the incident happened. They saw a group of perfected persons standing there, looking a little lost. Lei Xingfeng said, "Okay, everyone, disperse. Go do what you need to do. Why are you standing around? Leave 2 people who know the situation." The group of perfected persons immediately scattered. They were considered the lower middle class of the secret sect. When they saw Gucci and Lei Xingfeng, they naturally did not dare to be disrespectful. Gucci asked, "Tell me in detail. How did they fall into the restriction? Also, where is the restriction?" Chapter 461. In fact, Lei Xingfeng had already seen the restriction, but he didn't want to embarrass his master. One of the perfected masters said, "It's here." He pointed at the restriction. Gucci said straightforwardly, "A phone, find the restriction's weak point and save them." He couldn't do anything, and he couldn't find the restriction's weak point. He could only let a phone do it. He was a bit depressed, but he quickly pulled himself together. As long as he found a suitable technique, He believed that his advancement speed wouldn't be slow. This restriction was actually a small one. With Lei Xingfeng's insight, he knew that this restriction wasn't strong. After seeing all kinds of restrictions, his knowledge had increased a lot. He knew that this was a small restriction, and it didn't cover a large area. Lei Xingfeng walked around the restriction. This restriction could only trap perfected masters. It was useless against perfected monarchs. Gucci didn't have Lei Xingfeng's insight, or he wouldn't have let Lei Xingfeng do it. He didn't know that this restriction wasn't strong. Lei Xingfeng didn't waste any effort. He broke the restriction and walked in. Gucci was stunned for a moment, but he followed in. This was a small garden. They saw 3/6 ring perfected masters running around like headless flies. Gucci said angrily, "Come here, don't run around." Seeing Gucci and Xian Feng, the three of them heaved a sigh of relief. They had tried everything they could, but to no avail. They were blocked by a layer of formless energy. No matter if they attacked or tried to force their way out, it was useless. In their fear, they could only run around. The three stepped forward and bowed. Gucci said, "Be careful in the future. Did you find anything here?" One of them said, "No, there's nothing here. It looks like an abandoned garden. There used to be a pavilion, but it's collapsed." The other person hesitated for a moment. He took out a star python record and said, "This was found on the ground. I wiped it clean, but I don't understand the things recorded on it." Lei Xingfeng stretched out his hand and said, "Oh, let me see." The man hesitated for a moment before handing it over to Lei Xingfeng. Lei Xingfeng thought for a while and said, "What reward do you want? I'll change it." The man was overjoyed and said, 10 rings, no, 8. 8 will do." He had been stuck at 6th ring for quite some time now. He was only 8 rings away from breaking through to 7th ring. This was a rare opportunity. Lei Xingfeng nodded, "I can't take advantage of you. This thing is useless to you, but it's useful to monarchs. I'll give you 200 rings. If you don't have enough in the future, you can come find me." That person was dumbfounded. After a while, he regained his senses and repeatedly said, "Yes, yes, yes." His face was full of smiles, and he almost drooled. The other two beside him showed a trace of envy. Lei Xingfeng handed him a bag of rings and said, "The two of them fell into this trap to save you. You should know what to do." The man nodded and said, "I'll give it to them." Immediately, the other two showed a grateful expression. Gucci nodded and said, "Let's go out." Lei Xingfeng was too lazy to take them out of the mirror world. He went to the seal and broke it with one blow, bringing everyone out. The three bowed, and Lei Xingfeng and Gucci left. When they returned to Wu Yang's side, Lei Xingfeng took out the star python record and said, "Master, you've gotten a great deal this time." Gucci took the star python record and looked it over. His face showed a look of ecstasy. Wu Yang said, "What good stuff." Gucci said, "Basic cultivation technique. I can't believe I found it here. But, Master, it's useless to you." Wu Yang said, "Then let me see it." Gucci could only pass it to Wu Yang and said, "Master, it's really useless. You're a Tao Lord, so you need a higher cultivation technique. This technique can at most allow you to cultivate to the heavenly monarch realm." Wu Yang looked at it for a while and sighed. "It's indeed not suitable for me, but it's still a little enlightening, especially the last part of the cultivation technique. What a pity." He kept shaking his head and sighing. Soon he smiled and said, "Let little Feng cultivate this technique too. Even if he can't reach the heavenly monarch realm, he should have no problem advancing. The stronger the disciple of the hidden sect, the more benefits it would bring to the hidden sect." Wu Yang, Gucci, and Lei Xingfeng all agreed on this point. Gucci said, "If little Feng cultivates this technique, he'll be more useful than me. I still need some time to get used to it. He can cultivate it directly. I'll make a copy for him." Lei Xingfeng said, "I'll go back to the mirror realm first. I'm exhausted. I'll go back and rest for a few days." Thunderstorm also said, "I'll go back too. It's time to go to the magnetic storm mountain range." Lei Xingfeng said, "Aye, I won't go. If you find anything or find the way to the back mountain, come back and call me." Thunderstorm nodded. He'd been in the magnetic storm mountain range for a while. After cultivating, he'd explored everywhere to find the way to the back mountain. It was just that he couldn't find the way. It was very easy to go to the magnetic storm mountain range now. After exiting the mirror realm, it was the magnetic storm mountain range. Thunderstorm had already recorded this point, and it was also the most important point. He could ignore other places, but he couldn't forget this place. After watching Thunderstorm leave, Lei Xingfeng went to eat and rest. After sleeping for a day, Lei Xingfeng was alone in his room. He began to organize the materials he'd obtained from the Golden Star Beast. First was the blood. He knew a little about how to make medicine. Of course, he couldn't compare to Lei Xingyao, but he still knew about the rough processing. Even if fresh blood was preserved in a black wooden bucket, it wouldn't last forever. It still needed to be processed before it could be stored for a long time. Lei Xingfeng took out a large pile of materials, mainly plant materials and a small amount of mineral materials. He began to configure them. Although he wasn't familiar with it, this configuration was relatively rigid. As long as he grasped the proportions well, and Lei Xingfeng was a meticulous person, it wasn't too difficult to configure them. There were a few ways to preserve the blood of star beasts. The best way was obtained from Lei Xingyao, which was to solidify the blood. This method was to use medicine to confine the blood. A ball of blood would be extracted from a wooden bucket, and the medicine would be added. This ball of blood would form a fist-sized round bead. It was very simple. As long as there was no problem with the concoction, this concoction wouldn't be a problem. They'd obtained a lot of blood this time. Lei Xingfeng had taken more than 20 buckets. Solidifying the blood was quite troublesome and required a lot of time. Star beast blood could be used to concoct medicine, but could also be eaten. Therefore, Lei Xingfeng left a few buckets of blood for Jean Depeng to make into food. In addition to a few buckets of star beast blood, Jean Depeng also obtained a large amount of star beast meat. Lei Xingfeng's request was to make it into jerky so that it could be stored easily. After all, star beast meat was extremely beneficial to a cultivator's body. As for the golden beast bones, Lei Xingfeng only dealt with them slightly. These things were good materials for making weapons and would definitely be of great use in the future. Good materials had to be collected during normal times. Even a Tao Lord wouldn't have the ability to find them on the spot. Many materials had to be accumulated during normal times, whether it was for cultivation, weapon crafting, or concocting potions. Those who weren't prepared could only cry at the critical moment. Lei Xingfeng had always been a fanatic when it came to collecting materials. In this life, other than eating and cultivating, his favorite thing was collecting materials. After entering the hidden sect, he'd collected a lot of materials. However, he knew very well that this was far from enough. As his cultivation increased, some of the materials he'd collected in the past gradually became obsolete. The quality of the materials he'd collected in the past was no longer enough. He had to collect higher quality materials. Moreover, some of the things he'd refined in the past, such as the 1,000-leaf silver defense, were no longer enough. He had to refine them again. The spirit gold essence beads he'd obtained this time were the best materials for making defenses, especially metal-attributed materials. They didn't conflict with Lei Xingfeng's lightning attribute at all. He could even borrow the properties of the metal attribute to strengthen his defenses. This time, Lei Xingfeng had obtained a total of 18 spirit gold essence beads. He calculated that 6 would be enough. He left 6 for his little sister and 6 for backup. This time, I had also obtained 18 beads, so Lei Xingfeng didn't bother with him anymore. A large amount of astral beast meat also needed to be processed. Apart from giving some to Jean Depeng, Lei Xingfeng planned to give some of the remaining astral beast meat to his little sister and some to his senior brothers and sisters. This was something he had to do. With Lei Xingfeng's personality, it was very important for him to have a good relationship with his senior brothers and sisters. He had to blend in wherever he went, especially in the hidden sect. His senior brothers and sisters had helped him a lot in the past. Lei Xingfeng had never forgotten this. Not only the astral beast meat, but also the astral beast bones. Lei Xingfeng also planned to give a portion to his senior brothers and sisters. With the amount he'd obtained, even a small portion would be a lot. After being busy for dozens of days, Lei Xingfeng finally finished sorting out the collection in his hidden Lun space. The people searching in the forbidden area also withdrew bit by bit. This group of enlightened masters was like a swarm of locusts, sweeping away everything of value in the forbidden area. Among the things they'd obtained this time, there was a cultivation garden. Although it was only a small garden, there were still many precious spirit herbs that had been transplanted into the mirror world. There were also some energy blocks and many broken puppet beasts. Back then, over 10,000 puppet beasts had besieged the astral beast. In the end, all of them had been shattered, leaving behind countless fragments. Some of the puppet beasts were even stronger than the gold-grade ones. Under Jing Zia's guidance, they'd pieced together dozens of them. These puppet beasts, which were also the strong men that Jing Zia had mentioned, totaled over 200. According to Jing Zia, these puppet beasts were too damaged, and the ones pieced together were much weaker than the original ones. Even so, Wu Yang and Gucci were very satisfied. The puppet beasts were very useful, and it was thanks to Jing Zia's ability that they'd been able to piece together so many of them. The basic cultivation method required at least a 9th ring enlightened master to learn. This time, they'd obtained the Star Python record by chance, which solved the biggest problem of the entire secret sect. The previous cultivation methods were basically abandoned. Lei Xingfeng also obtained a copy of the Star Python record, which was copied by Gucci. Lei Xingfeng then made another 10 copies and distributed the cultivation methods to his 9th ring enlightened masters. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.